Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Very warm good evening to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. I welcome you all to today's class. It's a Saturday, but it's an unusual Saturday because we are meeting for this class. It is your class number 7 of internal security. We'll wait for a couple of minutes. Let everyone join the class and then we will begin. Thank you so much. Good evening everyone. Hello Suomo, Pablo, Golapalli. Hello, good evening Priyadashni. Hi Vasundhara, Arnab, Diksha, Anushka, Meshak, Veer, Shiva, Vivek, good evening, Jiva, good evening, Muskan, Zainab, Pallavi, good evening. Hi Diksha, hello Roshan, good evening, Namrata, hello Sakshi, good evening, Namrata, Pavitra, Rakesh, good evening, Shivam. Good evening, Ritika, hello Himangi, good evening. Good evening, good evening. Hello Suryanika, good evening. Good evening, Ainum. Hello Kumari, good evening. Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone. All right, then. I hope all of you are doing good. I welcome you back to this class of internal security. In this class, yesterday, we were discussing the IT rules of 2021. What were the new rules that were introduced? We discussed specifically there were rules in three categories. The first category was social media intermediaries, that is the social media websites that we have, like Facebook, Twitter, etc. What are the rules for them specifically? What do they have to do, for example, in order to claim safe harbor, in order to make sure no action is taken against them? They would have to ensure that they are following all the provisions of the law, they are helping the government to find out who the culprits are or who the first originator of the news is. They also have to have their own Indian resident grievance officer who will register all the complaints. Within 24 hours, they will have to acknowledge that the complaint has been received. Within 15 days, they will have to take action on the complaint. They also have to send a monthly report to the government of India telling what were the complaints that they received, what happened with that complaint, so on and so forth. These are the things that we had discussed. Then we had a discussion about how social media poses a big challenge for internal security of India and for many other countries. We discussed some of the examples of how social media has been used or rather misused to tamper with the law and order situation in the country. Rumor mongering, spreading fake news, social engineering, issues such as apps, for example, the Blue Whale app, all of these things we had discussed yesterday. Now, this is where we had left. Now we will be continuing our discussion on again the rules that were made by the government. Out of the three rules, the rule for social media websites, rule for the OTT platforms, and rule for the digital news organizations. Out of these three, the most important ones are the ones for social media only. So the rules for social media companies are the ones that are the most important ones, the ones that we studied yesterday. For OTT, although there are rules, but they are not very easy to implement. For example, the main rule for the OTT platforms is age classification for content. So we discussed this yesterday also. If you go and watch, let's say, a movie in a theater today, you will always see that there is an age appropriate rating of the movie. For example, some movies are A grade. When they are A grade, that means only 18 plus can watch it. Then there's something called UA, then there's something called UA 13, UA 7. All these things are usually the ratings that you see in case of the movies when you go to theaters. But on OTT platforms, this was not really a classification that was followed earlier. In 2021, the government of India said that for content on OTT platforms as well, be it a movie, be it a web series, doesn't really matter. For any content that goes on the OTT platforms, they have to show age appropriate classification. So there are different classifications. For example, U is for universal, anyone can watch it. UA is 7 plus, so only person who is over 7 years can watch it. UA 13 plus, only people who are above 13 years of age can watch it. 16 plus, and then adult is 18. Now again, I told this yesterday as well, and you all understand. The problem here is on these OTT platforms, how do you make sure that these rules are followed? On these OTT platforms, when you have a television at your home, there is one common television for everyone. So on that television, if a web series is on, who is watching that web series or who is watching that movie? Is it a kid in front of the TV? Is it a parent? Is it a kid sitting with the parent? How do you now differentiate? That becomes problematic. So basically, the main difference is in case of OTT platforms, the responsibility is mainly on the parents. The responsibility is primarily on the parents. While in case of movie theaters, the responsibility is on the people who are running the theaters. They are the ones who have to make sure that only audience that is allowed to see that movie enters the theater. But in everyone's individual home, the responsibility is mostly on the parents. Also, the OTT platforms have to implement parental lock as well for 13 plus and higher. What's a parental lock? So basically, parental lock means kind of setting a password that again the parents are required to do this. That the parents should know. Now, if you actually realize that if you watch Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hotstar, whatever, you will see they have option for multiple profiles. So if you, for example, open Netflix, there are multiple profiles that you can have. So for example, you can make your own profile. Some other family member can have some other profile. Third family member can have a third profile. So what you can do is you can make a profile for the kids separately, wherein only kid appropriate content will be shown. For example, again, if you watch Netflix, you would know what I'm talking about. If you open Netflix and you launch Netflix, there is automatically an account created on Netflix. The name is Kids. That account is where the kids are supposed to watch content through that account. And that is the account where only kids appropriate content is shown and no other content is shown. So again, there are provision of various websites, yes, Somo. There are YouTube versions for kids as well. But the problem again is you never know who is behind that laptop. Kids these days grow up very smart very quickly. If you have kids at your home, you would know we were very late in understanding a lot of things that the kids today know already. There are kids 8 to 10 years old, 11 years old who know a lot more than what we knew at that point of time, and they would know a lot more than what we know right now. So, for a kid, it is not that difficult to figure out if he or she wants to watch the normal version of YouTube that the parents use. So, how do you stop that? That is still not clear. Because again, the government cannot be present within your own personal home. The government can make these regulations, but whether or not they are implemented well, it is again the responsibility of the parent, the individual person who is sitting at home. Also, again, if you watch these web series, you will see in all of these web series now on the top left corner, usually the rating is always displayed. So, if this is the screen, the movie is playing. Somewhere here, it will constantly say A or UA 13 plus or something like that. It will constantly have that so that whoever is watching the content, if there's a parent watching the content, an adult in the room, they can actually identify who this content is made for, and then they can take the decision. But again, I'll repeat, for OTT platforms, it's extremely difficult to get it approved or to get it implemented on the ground inside your home. It's easy to make the rules, it's easy to make the regulation, but it's very difficult to actually implement them on the ground. And that's why for OTT platforms especially, it's not a very easy job. Then there are regulations for digital media. Again, there were regulations of on three different aspects. We discussed this yesterday. Regulations for social media, which we discussed yesterday. Regulations for OTT platform, the one that we just discussed, and the third was regulations for digital media. Digital media, as I said yesterday, means the media that is mainly running online on YouTube, Facebook, etc. There are a lot of news channels now that don't really have their own news channel, their own TV channel. They run all their operations on YouTube. That is what digital media is all about. So for digital media also, there are certain regulations that have been imposed because the people who were running the news on TV, the TV news channels, they had this complaint that while we have to follow government regulations, these YouTube guys are free to follow whatever they want. So again, this has been changed. For digital media also there are regulations. For example, they would have to follow journalistic conduct of the Press Council of India. Now, have you heard of Press Council of India, by the way? Have you heard of it? Press Council of India. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that you would remember, but at least you would have heard of the name. Press Council of India. Okay. Okay, no worries. So basically, it is a statutory body. It is a statutory body, and it was set up in 1978. Again, the concept is that they have to ensure that they maintain the news channel standards or standards of media, standard of newspaper also. Now they work in both sides. First, they give regulations to be maintained by news channel, news media, the rules and regulation that they have to follow. On the other hand, they also preserve the freedom of the press. They also try to make sure that the press is not basically pushed into doing something by the government that they don't want. Their freedom has to be preserved. It has government involvement as well. For example, the Press Council of India has chairman, and there are 28 members apart from this. Now, these people usually are from the media. Chairman is selected by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. And again, as I said, because the Lok Sabha Speaker is involved in selecting the chairman, there is a political interference also that goes on usually in these cases. Anyways, so Press Council of India, whatever conducts, whatever rules that they publish are usually followed by news media on the TV and on the newspaper. Digital media also has to follow the same. Apart from that, the government said that there has to be a three-level grievance redressal mechanism. Please do remember this. There has to be a three-level grievance redressal mechanism. First level, self-regulation by the publisher. So the company that is publishing the content, company that is publishing the news, they internally have to make sure that they don't give out any false news or fake news. So first level is within themselves they have to regulate it. Second level, self-regulating body of the publishers. So all the social media publishers would together have to make a body, and that body together will look into whether or not they are able to control and regulate the news. So again, first level by the publishers themselves individually at their level. Second level will be by the group of publishers. The group of publishers will make a self-regulating body. They will be the one who will look into the news. And the third level will be by the government. The third level will be by the government. So there will be these three levels of regulation that have to be followed. Again, first level by the publisher themselves, second level by the self-regulating body of the publishers, and the third level by the government of India. This is the three-level mechanism that will look into whether or not anything published by these news channels is objectionable, should it be removed or not? Again, let me repeat the concept here. While the news on TV or the news on newspapers, they were already regulated. There were strict government rules. What can they do? What can they not do? But on the other hand, for online digital platforms, there was no regulation as such. They were not covered under these government rules and government laws. They will now be covered under this. They will now be covered under this. Again, three levels. First, by the publisher themselves. Second, by a body that should be created by the publishers as a group. And third, by the central government that will look into whether or not there are some issues about the content that is being published. Now, I told this earlier as well. Of the three kind of regulations that are published in the IT rules of 2021, the ones that are for social media intermediaries, those are the ones that are the most important. So social media intermediaries are the ones, they are the ones who are the most important. For the other two, the OTT platform, and for the other ones, that is a digital media, that is not that important. The government mainly wants to control the reach of the social media platforms specifically. Now, moving on, the other topic that has been extremely common and commonly asked by the UPSC is the cyber security issues. Increasingly, the amount of challenges that we face in our internal security are changing. There was a time that the internal security challenges were mainly in the form of people attacking the government physically with arms and ammunitions. But now the nature of challenge has changed drastically. Now we see a situation where most of the countries, including India, face a threat online, face a threat due to technology. This is where the concept of cyber security comes into the picture. In the past few years, we have seen a lot of attacks on India's online assets. We have seen a lot of attacks on government of India's platforms. And it's not just India. Countries around the world are realizing that as countries go online, as most of the assets of the government go online, it is important for them to have a team of people who can actually look into and who can attack your online infrastructure. For example, the Chinese military within their army has a team of hackers right now. There are hackers that work specifically with the Chinese army to make sure that they attack any online infrastructure of their enemy countries. Indian government also has been giving a lot of training to people who are working in this field. They are not a part of Indian army, but Indian government also has been making a lot of efforts to make sure that there is collaboration and there is a lot of backing of the people who are able to solve the cyber security issues. I'll give you a few examples. Um, when COVID-19 crisis was going on, in the second wave, we saw there was a blackout in Mumbai. Blackout in the sense that the entire Mumbai's electricity was gone. Now, remember, this was a time where hospitals were full, hospitals were running on full capacity. They needed generators, they needed oxygen concentrators, they needed each and every appliance. All those appliances which were not really able to work without electricity, because of which there was a big blackout. Now, at that point of time, when the blackout happened, when the entire city electricity was shut down, it was thought that maybe it's because of some issue, some technical issue that has happened. Maybe some infrastructure has gone bad, some wires, some transformer, etc. Later on, it was found out it was actually a Chinese hacking attempt. It was actually a Chinese hacking attempt. It was found out later on that it was China, the Chinese hackers were behind this. They were the ones who had made sure that they could tackle the entire critical infrastructure of Mumbai and could shut down the power. Now, this is not the only instance. In fact, around the world, a lot of these incidents have been happening. I'll give you one more example. So in US, there is a big company called Colonial Gas or Colonial basically pipeline. Now, what happened was this is a big company that petrols that sells petrol, gas, gasoline, etc. in the US. A few years back, there was a news that came out that their networks have been hacked. Now, doesn't matter which field you are in today, missiles, nuclear technology, green energy, any field, all of that is working on online technology. When someone is, let's say, firing a nuclear weapon firing doesn't mean that someone will physically go switch on the button and then basically light up the matchstick and then basically try and light up the rocket. No, that is not what happened in case of nuclear weapons. So all these technology, nuclear weapons, etc., all that is controlled online. All of this is controlled online. Your electricity grids, your nuclear power plants, your nuclear weaponry, all of that is controlled online. So what happened was in the US, there was a news that there is a hacking attempt on the Colonial Pipeline. Their networks have been hacked. This news spread so much that there was panic in the US. People were lining up outside the petrol pumps to buy petrol or gasoline, as they call it, to buy gasoline at very high prices. Gasoline supply was shortened because people were just hoarding it, people were just buying it in the boxes, in the cartons, and keeping it at home. What had happened was this company's network was hacked by some hackers. They were demanding money in the form of cryptocurrency. So they were demanding millions of dollars in the form of bitcoins. Eventually, the company had to pay up, and then only the hacking attempt was released. You can come again to India. Few months back, you would have read there was a hacking attempt on AIMS. Read that? There was a hacking incident in AIMS. Apparently, the records that AIMS maintains of all the patients, it was hacked into. It kept on happening for a few days. There is no, so now in these cases, usually what happens, let's say if the hacker has hacked into a system and they are demanding some ransom, let's say they are demanding money or they are demanding cryptocurrency, whatever, the governments usually do not disclose if they actually gave the money or not. Because if the government discloses to the people that we had to give money to the hackers, people's confidence will decline. You will not trust your government to handle these situations. You will think that my government is not capable to handle this. So what the governments usually do, they don't tell. So in case of AIMS also, the government never made it clear whether they had to pay the money to the hackers or whether they were able to retrieve the situation itself. Many people say that the government had to pay money, but again, there's no clarity on whether they had to pay money or not. But this is just an example to prove how hacking attempts are becoming increasingly more common and dangerous. And especially in an era where most of our infrastructure works online, most of our important information is stored online, especially in this era, it's extremely important for us to have a control over all these technologies and over these hacking attempts. This is why cybersecurity of a country is important. This is why the government of India has been spending a lot of money, making a lot of laws about cybersecurity and to strengthen it. Now, there are many challenges that the countries face when dealing with these cybersecurity threats. First challenge, there is no geographical boundary. See, it is easy to stop an enemy coming into your country because there are borders. At the borders, you can place the army, the weapons on your side, make sure no one enters illegally. But what do you do when there are no boundaries, no barriers in technology? Anyone can try to hack your website from anywhere in the entire world. They don't have to be really in India. Also, it's extremely difficult to locate. See, hackers have to be successful only once, while the people who are trying to fight against the hackers have to be successful every single time. Let's understand the difference. For the hackers who are trying to harm your system, they just have to succeed once. If they do that once, good enough for them. On the other hand, the security forces fighting against them, they have to be successful every single time to make sure that they do not allow them. So, for hackers who usually stay one step ahead with new technology coming in, it's just a matter of striking at the right time. Technology is also rapidly evolving. Even if there are technologies that the government of India or our forces have been able to control, it is still evolving. There are new technologies coming up every single month. Even if you are able to master one technology, it can usually be outdated within a few months. And the hackers usually try to stay one step ahead. Traditional concepts like deterrence, etc., do not work here. Deterrence means when you want to deter or scare your enemy, you can buy a lot of weapons, you can buy your nuclear missiles, etc., to scare the other countries, the other army. But in case of cyber threats, there is nothing like a deterrence. How would you deter them? By saying, oh, I have a very good antivirus? No, that will not deter them. Because the problem is the cost that they have to pay is minimal. Please understand. The problem with cyber warfare is the cost of failure. That is a big issue. In a traditional war, when an army attacks another army, in that case, the only deterrent they have, or the only reason why they will think twice, is that they have a cost of failure, meaning that their people will die, there will be a lot of financial loss, their infrastructure will be destroyed, they may lose their territory also. So that's a big cost of failure. But in cyber warfare, for the attacker, there is no cost of failure as such. You're trying to commit an attack, a cyber attack. If you fail, nothing will happen. You will try once again after some time, try to improve your technology. When the cost of failure is lesser, when that barrier is gone, that means the number of cyber hacking attempts have increased drastically. Also, for those of you who are from technology background, you would agree to this. It is almost impossible to build 100% secure system. 100% secure system is almost impossible to build. You can have a very high tech system, very secure, that has a lot of security in place, but there will always be something that will be amiss, and there will always be one vulnerability that can be found out if someone tries over and over and over again. And by finding out that one single small vulnerability, it is enough to bring the entire system down. That is why countries around the world now are focusing a lot more on cyber security. Let's take one more example. All of you have read about the Agniveer scheme. All of you know the Agniveer Yojana. All of you have read about Agniveer. Okay. So Agniveer, as you know, is the scheme of recruitment of army personnel. The Agniveer Yojana basically is that when the army recruits people, it will be for shorter duration. Now it will be for 4 years, and after 4 years, a few of them will continue. Let's say 25% will continue. Others will keep on leaving the army after 4 years of service. One of the outcomes of Agniveer will be that the size of the army will reduce. Size of the army will reduce. Why? Because you are giving a much shorter tenure to the people who are working in the army. Rather than them being permanently placed in the army, or giving them a shorter tenure, because of which you would have a situation that the army size will reduce. Now, the interesting part is the government is doing this intentionally, because increasingly the governments around the world are realizing that if you have a limited amount of money, rather than spending it on a lot of people being recruited in the army, it is better to spend it on technology. So the money that is going in, the government wants to take back money from the personnel in the form of salary and pension and rather invest more money into technology. It can be weapons and into cyber security. You would keep on seeing these news stories that Aadhaar data has been leaked, government data has been leaked from this website and that website. All of these are examples of cyber threats and cyber security. Now, there are different types of cyber securities or different type of cyber threats rather. You would have been familiar with a lot of these. For example, you might have heard of these things: malware, worms, trojan. We'll discuss about these in just a bit. You all would have heard about DDoS. DDoS is what? What does DDoS stands for? Those don't worry. Those who don't know, I'll tell you. Don't worry. Distributed denial of service. Simple concept. Try and understand this. Remember when you used to check your class 12th result or you used to check your class 10th result, the website would just not open. Remember, when you used to enter a roll number, the website would just not open. It will just keep on loading and loading and loading. It would just not open. At the college also, if you had your result online, if you give up your roll number, it will just not open. Why is it not opening? Usually the website does open up. Similar with the UPSC result also. When the UPSC result is announced, for the first few hours, it will be very, very difficult to get the website opened up because the website will just not load. Now, why does it happen? What happens in this case is there are too many people who are trying to open the website from various places. So the website is receiving requests from too many places, and the server of the website is just not able to handle it. So in simple language, you can say server is down. But all what is happening is there is too much traffic, too much pinging on the website, too many requests being made to the website to open up, and the website is not able to handle it. This is a real scenario. This is a real scenario. Now, what the hackers do, they try to copy this scenario virtually. What they will do is they will basically make a program using which your website will think that it is being opened from lakhs and millions of places. And that is why the website to a real user will not open up. This is called DDoS attack. So, virtually, a situation will be created wherein your website will think that it is being opened up from various places around the world. It will be overwhelmed, the server will be occupied entirely, and it will not be able to give results anywhere. That is when you will see a lot of many websites around the world crashing a lot of times, and it crashes because of this only. That's DDoS. Second, the most common word that you keep on hearing is hacking. Hacking is a very generic word used for a lot of things. Hacking can be someone getting your password and then accessing your information. Hacking can also be someone that takes over the control of your machine, that takes over the control of your devices. For example, you are using your phone and all of a sudden the phone itself shuts down and does not opening up. Someone else has control over it. Your CCTV cameras are working on command of someone else. All that comes in that definition of hacking. When someone takes over control of your devices from you and you are not able to control it. Then phishing. Now, phishing basically means, for example, let's say you get an email. Okay, you get an email from, let's say, HDFC Bank. Now, when you get an email from the HDFC Bank, let's say the email will say that your reward points are expiring or your debit card or credit card is expiring. Click on this link. There will be a link given here. Click on this link and give us your card details, and we will send you a new card. So you will open up the email, you will think, yes, you are using the SDFC credit card or debit card, it's expiring. So you'll click on the link, give the card details. But what will happen is this link is a fake link. The website that it will open up will look very similar to the SDFC website. The hackers make the website, the duplicate website, to be like very much the original one. It seems very similar, like the same blue color, like the same white and red color, and without realizing that it's not the original or the website that the HDFC bank is running, you will be just giving your card details, and then your card details will go to the hacker, and that is when they will get your password or credit card number. This is called a phishing attempt. So phishing attempt means drawing you or attracting you towards a fake page which looks like a familiar official page, and you give out all this information, be it password, be it card number, etc. That is why you will see whenever someone gives you a Google form link. So there are Google form links where people ask for your information. Whenever you have the Google form link, it is usually always mentioned, never mention your password in any Google form, or never give any official or personal information on the Google form, because the Google form data will go to someone who will read it. This is called a phishing attempt, when you are able to clone the website's page and make it appear like it is the original place altogether. Now, if you actually see, there are different types of words that are usually used related to malware. In common language, we call all of this as virus only. In common language, we say, oh, it's a virus, the virus is doing this, virus is doing that. But actually, it's not just virus. Apart from virus, also, there is also something else that exists. So there are viruses, then there is something called worm, and then there's something called a Trojan as well. So these are three very different things. Again, usually we use the same word virus for each and everything, but that is not always true. There are worms and there are Trojans as well. Let's try and understand. Virus, that the word that we have been using it mostly, it's a system, it's a program or a file in your system that is infected. It will harm your computer, it will harm the other programs in your computer as well, it will slow down the speed as well. When you transfer some data from your computer to some other computer, the virus may get transferred with that, and it infects the other systems as well. So the more that you transfer, the more it will spread, the more it will get infected. That is how a virus works. So again, program or a data file that tries to infect the other files in the system, transfers from one place to the other, that is what a virus is. Then a worm. The important part about worm is that it multiplies very quickly. Worm is again a kind of a program or a data file that you do not want in your system, but it basically tries to quickly multiply and increase in numbers. It will also travel from one computer to the other computer. Usually, worms are considered to be less harmful. They don't really infect a file as such, but what they will do is mainly they will slow down the machine. Slow down the computer, there'll be error messages that you will keep on getting. So it's not mainly something that harms other profiles or other programs, but it will slow down the computer, it will give you error. Then there is Trojan. Now, what is Trojan? Lakshya, masquerade doesn't mean mosquito, man. Masquerade means to try and get into something or someone else's identity, to show that I am someone else. That is called masquerading, to wear a mask. So, have you all heard the Trojan horse story, by the way? I hope you're familiar with the Trojan horse story. Very famous story of the Trojan horse from the Greek mythology. I hope all of you have heard of it. Okay. If you have not heard of it, if you have not heard of it, basically, there is a very famous story of the Trojan horse. So the Trojan horse story basically is that there was a there was a war in Troy. So Troy used to be a place in Greece. There was this big war of Troy. So what happened was, in this war, the side that had won. So there was a war between Trojans and there was a war between the Greeks. Now the Greeks, what happened was, the Greeks seemed to had lost the war. The Greeks thought that they have lost the war. They went away. The Trojans were celebrating, thinking that now we have won the war. They were celebrating at night. There was party happening. All of a sudden, they saw a very big wooden horse floating towards their island. Very big wooden horse floating. So they thought that it's cute, it's good. Let us push the horse in. They brought the horse in. They placed it in the middle of their capital and they kept on partying. What happened was, inside the horse, they were actually soldiers. So in the night when everyone was sleeping inside, from inside the horse, the soldiers came in and they started attacking, and the war was again lost by Trojans, and the Greeks won the war. So this is the story of the Trojan horse. In simple terms, when you download a system or download a program thinking that it's a good file, thinking that it is something that is helpful for you, but in reality, it is not what you believe. In reality, it is actually something else which starts to harm your computer. That is a Trojan that you download intentionally. It's not by mistake that you have downloaded it. Download intentionally because you think it will not harm your system, it will help you, but it starts to harm your system in the long run. This is called Trojan. These are the Trojan file. Now, these are different types of threats that we see. Not just this, there are some other threats as well. For example, first, cyber espionage. Cyber espionage, in simple terms, means taking out information or spying. So, a lot of these operations, what they do is they actually spy on the government systems. And it is a very common, I'll give you an example. Do you know, when, let's say, president or prime minister of one country visits the other country? I'll give you an example. So in the G20, leaders from all around the world came to India. Now let's assume when they came to India, let's say the American president, he was given a hotel room, that this is your room in the hotel, this is where you will stay. Now in this hotel room, usually the presidents don't stay like in the hotel. So what happens is, within the room, like say if this is the room, within the room they will make a tent. They will make an enclosed tent, and all their important meetings will be held inside the tent here, not in the open room. Why? Because every country believes that the other country is spying on them. Doesn't matter whether they are their friends or enemies. Friends, in fact, friendly countries spy on each other even more because they want to know what the other side is thinking, what the other side is planning. So it's a very common practice that whenever a leader of a country travels to the other country and stays in a room, in a hotel, in a public place, they will never stay in the open in the hotel. Within the room, they will make a tent, an enclosed space, and in that enclosed space only they will talk. They will have meetings with their partners, they'll have meetings with their subordinates. That's a very, very common practice. You all would have heard about Edward Snowden. Have you heard this name? Edward Snowden. Heard of him? Heard of him? Those who have not heard of him, Edward Snowden, surprised you have not heard of him. So, Edward Snowden, the American whistleblower, He used to work for the American intelligence agencies. A few years ago, he came out in the open and he started saying that the government of USA listens to everyone. He made claims that the government of USA listens to all the US citizens, listens to their phone calls, reads their emails. He even made statement that US government spies on every country. He said that even our own friendly countries, Germany, other European countries, UK also, all of these are countries that we all spy, that the US government spies on. This is the breaking news, or this was the allegation that Edward Snowden had made. Now, when he made all these statements, obviously he was considered as a threat by the American government. The American government wanted to arrest him. He was scared for his life, so he ran away. And which country gave him the asylum? Russia. So Russia gave him the asylum. He now stays in Russia. So he's living in Russia on asylum. He was the one who basically broke this news that the US government spies on everyone. And when you say everyone, does not just mean its own citizens. Apart from its own citizens, the American government, as per Edward Snowden, also spies on the other foreign governments, even if they are friendly governments. Then we also have cyber warfare. Cyber warfare, basically, these are different types of softwares or spying items or spying technology that are used. Cyber warfare essentially means using a kind of a software on essential important infrastructure of the other country. For example, for a very long time, Iran and Israel, they keep on blaming each other that the other side is trying to hack into our nuclear system, our nuclear infrastructure. Both the sides say that the other side is trying to hack into our nuclear structure. They are trying to hack into all our infrastructure. These are the kind of programs that are used for that. Then there's cyber terrorism, a possibility of the terrorists using this technology to compromise on any country's critical infrastructure. I told you earlier as well, the way that Pakistan negotiates with the world is not by saying that give me money, I will improve. The way that Pakistan negotiates with the world, whenever they want money, they go to IMF, and their argument is if you don't give me the money, then I can't guarantee where my nuclear weapons will go. They always say, I can't guarantee my nuclear weapons will go into bad hands. I can't guarantee, so you have to give me the money. So, a possibility of terrorists getting their hands on these weapons through online hacking, that can be cyber terrorism, where the terrorists start using this technology to compromise with some other country's security. Then, ransomware. Now, ransomware is also becoming increasingly common. In fact, some of my friends have also faced ransomware. Ransomware is a situation where one day you will open up your laptop and you will not be able to log in. You will enter the password that you have. You have not changed the password. You always have kept one password. You try to enter the password, and the machine is just not allowing you. It will just not allow you to go ahead and log in. So, what will you do? All of a sudden, there will be a message on your computer screen. It will say, transfer this much money to this account, and then I will leave your computer. Transfer this much money, then I will tell you the real password. That is called ransomware, where a hacker has taken over your machine. The hacker has taken over your mobile or your laptop or whatever machine, the server that you have. And in exchange for leaving the control, in exchange for letting go of it, the hacker is asking you that you have to give me money, and only then I will let it go. That is a situation which is called ransomware. That is called ransomware. Now, ransomware is what happened with Colonial Gas Pipeline. Ransomware may have happened with AIMS also. We don't know. The government never clarifies whether they had to give money for AIMS or not. So, this is how ransomware usually works. All these are different types of cyber threats that exist around the world today. Before we go ahead, let me see if there are any. You can ask your question for a few minutes. Please, relevant questions. Irrelevant, I'll have to ignore. I'm sorry. Then we'll go ahead. Ankush, WannaCry is the name of the ransomware virus. Pavitra saying, what are the possibilities to hack a password? Pavitra, the possibility is always, if you are competent enough, you will be able to do that. Vivek, if I knew how CCTVs can be hacked, I would have done that, right? So you're asking the wrong person. Maybe ask a hacker, they will tell you. Megha, Agniveer is not permanent job. Agniveer is not really a topic. I'll just give you an example. Agniveer, you get a government or army job for 4 years. After 4 years, 25% people carry on, leave, left 75% have to leave. Then Pihu is saying, Pihu, cyber warfare means when a country uses hacking as a tactic to attack the other country. Uh, Lakshay, OTT is also, Hotstar is also an OTT only, you know. Then Ankush saying, just for asking difference between content UA and UA 7 plus. UA means anyone can watch it, even 3 years old, 4 years old. UA 7 plus means 7 plus will watch it. Simple. Why to classify? I don't know why to classify. The authorities will tell. Uh, Joshila, the PPT link you can get it from the same place where you got it yesterday. We don't have the SME here today, so I won't be able to copy paste the link. But the you go to your portal under the study plan, you will get the PPT link, so you can download it from there. It's at the same place every single day. Guys, again, please don't ask me how hacking is done. I don't know. If you are thinking I'll tell you how hacking is done, you're asking the wrong person. So someone is asking how weapons are hacked in cyber terrorism. I don't know how they are hacked, but they are hacked. It's a reality. Don't ask me how it is done. Simple. So actually, by hacking, we get a job in India. Yes, you might. Dwaipayan, that's a feature of Truecaller. You might have a Truecaller in your phone. That's what that's doing. Nothing else. Parveen is saying any way to get rid of ransomware except accepting the hacker's demand. Guys, I am not a cybersecurity expert. So if you're thinking I'll answer questions of how to save your system, how to pay ransom, how to hack, I don't know. That is not important. That is not relevant. I don't know that. So please don't ask those questions to me. Okay. Neither the UPSC will ask you how to hack into the system or how to unhack into the system. That is not really important for you. Then yes, Pihu, Press Council of India is not responsible for OTT platforms. Press Council of India, the regulations that they make will be applicable to OTT platforms also. Okay. Then Ankush saying, I heard first computer virus was invented by two Pakistani scientists. Ankush, stop reading that WhatsApp now. Then Lakshya saying pirated or cracked version harms or ransom that device. It might, it might. There's a reason why officially you are not supposed to buy pirated or uh, basically cracked versions, or you're not supposed to buy versions which are compromised. There can always be a threat attached to it. Gunjan, there is no one. When you say when did cyber start in India, what is cyber? You have to ask specifically what are you asking. No, Vivek, PTI is different and Press Council of India is very different. All right, then. So these were your questions. Now, from the government side specifically, they also realize the fact that a lot of infrastructure in India or for other countries also, it is extremely, extremely critical for our survival. Guys, Megha, where do you download the PPT from every single day? I'm not sure. Can you not download it from there today also? Guys, can anyone share the link of the PPT maybe, and I'll tell Megha, because Megha is not able to find the PPT link. Megha, where do you download it from? It go to your app, go to the study plan. Within the study plan, you will see that. No, Namrata is saying did not receive. Anyone? Okay, did no one receive the PPT today? Is that the case? Is that the case? Not there, not there, not. Okay, 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 okay. Usually, do you receive it before the class or after the class? Usually, do you receive it before the class or after the class? Before the class. Ankush is saying that he got it. Ankush is saying that he got it. Shivam is also saying got it. So again, some people have gotten it, but guys, listen to me. Let's say you have not gotten the PPT. Can you focus here? Because I'm not sure why not having a PPT will really bother you from learning right now. So even if you get it after the class, that should not be the reason for you to not focus in the class, right? I think many of you have not gotten it, and I'll have to get it checked. Why has it happened? But again, it doesn't matter. At least right now, focus in the class, because again, there's no point of not focusing in and looking for the PPT. Whatever is in the PPT is written right here in the front. Whatever is in the PPT is written right here in front of you. The PPT will not give you anything new. So maybe let's try and open it up here. One more thing, Sibam is saying open the last class video, and in the corner it has a class PPT. So maybe you can try that. Go to dashboard, click on today's date, download it from there. Sapna is saying. So I don't know how why people have not been able to get it, but maybe to get check it the last class. In the last class, the people that you had, maybe it was continuing here. But again, guys, either way, if you have not gotten it so far, please ignore that. Not that important. Let's go back here. Let's come back here. If you have not gotten it so far, you will get it. Don't worry. It's not going anywhere. Okay. Let's come back. Now, let's go ahead with something called critical infrastructure or critical information infrastructure, CII. The government of India has realized the fact that some infrastructure in India is extremely important for running of the country. So there are certain infrastructure in India that is extremely important, without which the entire country will be disrupted. For example, telecommunication network, online payment gateways, stock trading platforms, power grid, nuclear plants, all of these come in the category of critical information infrastructure. Now, if you look at this, the government of India has said that these things are considered as critical information, means for them specifically, the government has made a law, and there is a body that has been created to protect this infrastructure. We'll discuss about that body also. To protect this infrastructure, a specific body has been created, because any disruption in this infrastructure can be extremely tough for the entire country. The reason being, crores of people are dependent on it. And since crores and crores of people are dependent on it, that is why it is considered to be complex or critical information infrastructure, on on which entire India's national security, economy, and public health is dependent. Now we'll discuss what body does it, or has the body government of India created to prevent that. For now, focus on the law that the government of India has made. Laksha, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I got these. Now, if you actually see, there is a law in India in place called the IT Act of 2000. The IT Act of 2000 is the primary law that deals with cyber terrorism issues and electronic commerce or e-commerce. So any scam that happens online, any cyber crime that happens online, how to deal with those cyber crimes, the punishment attached with it, all of that is written in this law, that is the IT Act of 2000. Now the IT Act of 2000 was a result of a UN conference. In 1996, there was United Nations model law on electronic commerce that was made. Now, what do you mean by model law? So, time and time again, the UN makes a model law. Model law means kind of suggesting to the countries around the world that on this matter you can have a similar kind of a law. Model law, it's kind of a suggestion for the nations. It's kind of a suggestion for the nations that this is a model law. You should also try and file or try and make such a kind of a law. It was recommended by the UN General Assembly. Following that, once the UN made a model law, the government of India also made a law in the year 2000. It has been changed multiple times since then. We'll discuss some of the important provisions of the law. Under the law, anyone of any nationality can be punished if he or she is involved in an online crime in India. So it doesn't matter even if you are sitting in the US or in China or in a European country and you are involved in any hacking attempt, in any online scam in India, the law will be used to punish you. The law also gives recognition to electronic record and digital signatures. We'll discuss about digital signatures in just a bit. For now, just understand digital signatures is kind of identification for a website. So, for example, if you see a document online, how do you know it's a official government document and not a fake document? Official documents usually carry what you call as digital signatures. Just like on your bank check, you have a signature. Just like on government documents, you have the president's signature. Similarly, to authenticate whether a website is authentic or not, whether the website is real or not, or to authenticate whether a certain document online is real or not, you need to authenticate it using something called digital signatures. Now, this act created a lot of new things. First, it created controller of certifying authorities. This is a government body that issues digital signatures and its regulations. So if a website or a document says I have a digital signature here, to prove that that signature is true or not, what regulations have to be followed, this is done by this authority. Do remember this. Controller of certifying authorities. This is the authority set up by the IT Act of 2000. It looks into making regulations for digital signatures. Second, so much saying can't the hackers imitate digital signatures? See, digital signatures are not about imitating. Physical signatures you can imitate by writing in the same handwriting style. Digital signatures are not that can be imitated. It's not about the pattern. It's about verifying them using certain protocols. So again, there is nothing that cannot be hacked. So I can't say no, it cannot be hacked, but yes, digital signatures are a very, very effective way of proving whether a website or a document is true or not. If can it be hacked, it can be hacked. Yes. Is it easy? No, it's not that easy. It's not like those signatures that you can just copy on the banknote. That is not what digital signatures are. They are much more complex. They have a much more technology involved. There's a much more protocol that involves here, and this is something that the control of certifying authority looks into. The law also created cyber appellate tribunal. I'm sure in polity all of you have read about tribunals. All of you read about tribunals in polity, right? All right, then great. So, because you all have read about tribunals, quickly tell me what exactly is the article under which these tribunals are created? What exactly are the articles, or is the article under which the tribunals are created? Okay, Ritu. Okay, Sanjana. Okay, Somu. So, if you remember, there are two articles mainly, 323A and 323B. So quickly reminding you, 323A is for administrative tribunals only. administrative tribunal like CAT, Central Administrative Tribunal, or SAT, State Administrative Tribunals. Those are committed or those are created under 323A. 323B is tribunals for other purposes. Other purposes can be environment, cyber, tax related issue, company law, etc. So this one is created under 323B. Anyway, the IT Act of 2000 also made changes in the Indian Penal Code that doesn't exist now. In Evidence Act, etc., changes are made here as well. It also amended or added provisions to deal with cyber warfare, such as cyber crimes, such as sexually exploited material in electronic form, video voyeurism, cyber terrorism, etc. All these are considered as a punishable offense now under IT Act of the 2000 year. Before this IT Act of 2000, these offenses were not written or there was no punishment written for these offenses anywhere. It was only with this law, the IT Act of 2000, that for the first time the law said that these kind of things like video voyeurism, cyber terrorism, sexually exploited material in the electronic form, all that will be considered as punishable. Now, one of the things that remained very controversial about the IT Act was government of India was extremely strict with this act. Many people believed it took away people's own individual liberty. There was a Supreme Court case in 2015, the Shreya Singhal case. I don't know how many of you have heard of the case. Let me give you some background of it. So basically, Section 66A of the IT Act, it was always very controversial. Section 66A of the IT Act said that anything that you write on social media, that will also be under the law, it will be regulated. If something that you write on social media is or creates law and order problem, creates a problem that is considered as anti-national, then you will be punished. Now what happened was this section 66A was misused by the government to arrest a lot of people. I'll give you two important examples. You all would have heard of this famous politician of earlier years, Bal Thackeray. If you're from Maharashtra, obviously you're familiar with him. Even if you're not from Maharashtra, you at least would have heard of Bal Thackeray, right? Founder of the Shiv Sena. It is his son Uddhav Thackeray that runs the one half of the party or whatever. So Bal Thackeray died a few years ago. And when he died, he was obviously a famous personality, controversial personality. So when he died, in his last journey, the last rite when people were taking his body for cremation, there were thousands and lakhs of people on the road. Now, at that point of time, apparently there was a young girl in Mumbai who who put a post on Facebook. She wrote on her Facebook status that see politicians, even when they are dead, they will still bring inconvenience to the common man even after he's dead. See, he's creating such a traffic jam. What about those people who want to go on a job interview? What about those people who have an emergency? They want to go to the hospital. This guy, even after he's dead, he's creating a traffic jam. So something like that, basically, she posted online. One of her friends also liked the post. And what happened was the next day, the Mumbai police was at her place to arrest her. She was arrested and her friend was also arrested. The charge again was that you are trying to incite violence. By this post, people will be hurt, people will be harmed, it will result in violence, so you have to be arrested. So they were arrested under Section 66A of the IT Act. Now, I'll give you one more example. If you're familiar with Uttar Pradesh politics, in UP politics, there used to be this big minister called Azam Khan. Azam Khan, leading member of the Samajwadi Party, the party of Akhilesh Yadav, Mulayam Singh. So he used to be the minister in the earlier government. And the story is that a few years back, apparently, two of his buffaloes were lost. Okay, so two of his buffaloes were lost, and because like, this is minister's buffaloes, so the story is that the entire police of the district in Rampur, he belonged to Rampur, the entire Rampur police was just looking after his buffalo. They were looking if they can find the buffalo or not. So someone again posted online that at a time when there is so much crime in the state of UP, when people are missing in thousands, if you ask the UP government what are they busy in, they will say they are busy in finding the buffalo of Mr. Minister. So he put out this post, and again, he was also arrested on the same charge. The person was arrested that you are creating a law and order issue, you are inciting violence, so we are arresting. So again, there are multiple such cases where people were arrested under IT Act Section 66A. Now, I'll tell you another interesting part. At least these were cases where people put out status, which were openly seen by the public. So that's still fine. There was, in fact, even a case where apparently the story is that two friends were talking on Facebook Messenger, not publicly, but on Messenger, and apparently they were joking about the Prime Minister. And in that joke, also the person was arrested. Now, you might say maybe the friend complained to the police, but if the friend did not complain to the police, it is scary that the police can even read your personal chats. So, all the personal chat that you have done in the last 9 years, trust me, it will come back to bite you. So, anyway, so that person was also arrested. So, guys, today is the time. Remove and delete all those chats before the boss gets to know about it. Okay, so anyway, so basically as the result, what happened was when all these cases were going on, that is when a case was filed in the Supreme Court called the Shreya Shinghal case. So the Shreya Shinghal case was this, that section 66A of the IT Act, under which people are getting arrested left, right, and center, it is a violation of Article 19. It's a violation of your freedom of expression. It's a violation of the freedom of expression. That was the argument, that it's freedom of expression, it is violating. The Supreme Court asked the government's argument was that no right is absolute, we have to put some restrictions. No right can be called as absolute. If something is harming country's national security, if something goes against the interest of the country, we can always ban it. And on the basis of that, the Supreme Court said that no, we are striking down section 66A. So it has been struck down now. It doesn't exist. Now you can't be arrested on such charges. Supreme Court said any discussion, no matter how unpopular it was, it is at the heart of the right to freedom of speech. Any discussion or advocacy cannot be curbed just by saying it will cause public order. You cannot say it will result in public disorder, it will result in violence. The government cannot have an open hand in striking down or just arresting people left, right, and center. That is not done. So the present status is section 66A of the IT Act has been struck down. It has been watered down by the government. Now, one more related aspect of cyber crimes is cyber crime against women. Now, it is a fact, and it has been proven by numbers also, that women are disproportionately more affected by these cyber crimes, be it pornography, be it stalking, defamation, trolling, picture morphing, fake photos. All of this is problematic, and all of this is done mainly to women. Now, there are many cases, and there's a real case of a few years back where I don't know how many of you, there's a phrase called revenge porn. Do you know what this is? Revenge porn. It's a very famous phrase that is doing like, okay. So if you don't know what's revenge porn, so the idea is if there's a couple in a relationship, girlfriend, boyfriend, and they break up. Now, when they break up, it has been seen that a lot of times the guy who would have some intimate photos of the ex girlfriend, in order to take revenge from the ex girlfriend, starts putting out these personal photos on social media platforms. This is called revenge porn. That is to take revenge. That why did you break up from the relationship? I will now basically put out your personal photos on public. This is called revenge porn. Now, it's a big problem, not just in India, but everywhere around the world. Everywhere around the world, it's a big problem. That is why, now again, I am not here to give you relationship advice, but this is why it is said, doesn't matter how good your relationship is, you should not have each other's personal photos or private photos, because you never know. Even if you are not doing it, you never know who will get your hands on the phone. You never know, your phone will go to someone else's hand, and you never know what will happen anyway. So there's a big problem of revenge porn everywhere in the world, including in India now. That once the people break up, once a couple breaks up, one of them wants to take a revenge, they're in bad mood, and that is what they do. So a few years ago, there was this instance of a girl going to a police station, and the complaint was this, that my personal photos, my private intimate photos are being leaked by my ex-boyfriend. He's putting it on Twitter, and can you please stop it? Now the problem was, the first question that the policeman asked her was, madam, what is Twitter? I don't know what is Twitter. Now imagine if you go to the police and tell them that I have a problem with Twitter, and they don't know what Twitter is. How do you expect the police now to first get to understand what is social media, then understand how does Twitter work, and then solve the case? So again, there is a problem that even the law enforcement agencies, especially at the lower grassroots level, are not really trained to handle these kind of things. And there is data to prove that women are disproportionately affected by it, by all these things, be it stalking, defamation, saying a lot of bad things about them online, most of them false. Picture morphing is also very common. You would have seen that fake video of Rashmika Mandhana. I'm sure all of you would have. That fake video of Rashmika Mandhana that became famous, the actress's video, where her face was imposed on someone else. That is also morphing only. So morphing means when on someone else's face or someone else's body, your face is morphed or your face is put up. All that is a big challenge that women specifically face. Now, if you actually see, there is data that proves that it is a big problem. Look at NCRB. NCRB is National Crime Record Bureau. It keeps a track and data of all the crime in India. National Crime Record Bureau. National Crime Record Bureau says total cyber crimes in India during 2020 were about 50,000. 10,000 were specifically against women on these offenses. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has said that there are over 82 crore internet users in India by March 2021. So the number has obviously would have increased even further. The number of internet users in India are increasing constantly. And when you have so many people with a smartphone in their hands, not ready to use their wisdom, just using their free data, as we discussed yesterday, that becomes a big, big, big challenge. There are a lot of people in the society that go rogue, that want to have fun in doing something illegal. See, that is what human tendency is. Take a simple example. If I tell you this is a wall and the wall is freshly painted, don't touch the wall. Listen to this question carefully. If I tell you there is a wall freshly painted, don't touch the wall, tell me what is the first thing you will do. Be very honest. Tell me honestly, what will you do? If I tell you freshly painted wall, don't touch the wall. That is the only instruction I give you. What will you do? Most people will touch the wall. That is what human nature is. You will touch it, right? Yes, absolutely. Everyone is saying they'll touch it because for whatever reason you're like, let me touch it and then I'll see. So first you will touch the wall and then you will go. So the human nature always is to do something that maybe is not permitted, to do something that may not be in line with the law because you just want to flirt with it and see what happens. Similar is the case here. Even small actions, even very small actions on the part of people who have mobile phones, or very small action on the part of people who are using these mobile phones, they might think that it's fun. For someone, sharing a fake video to their friends, sharing a fake photo to their friend is fun. They won't even think twice before doing it. But for someone else, it may be a much, much bigger matter. And that is what becomes a problem. Then there are also issues where the women don't want to file the case. See, most of the time, and this is true with a lot of offenses against women, the number of cases that the government tells are always much, much lesser than the real number of cases. The reason is simple. In most of the cases, women don't come out in the open to actually file the case. It is due to various reasons. They may think it will bring them a bad name. They may think that they are the victims, but they will be the one who will be blamed. People will tell them, why did you click that photo? You are wrong. You should not have done that. So, a lot of times you will see that these matters are just not reported. Because again, there is this problem of what will the society say, societal pressure, pressure from the parents, pressure from the family. You just want to let it go. So number of cases that are reported are much, much, much lesser. Former complaint is never filed with the police. But even then, the reality is that women, and the problem is it happens in all the age groups. It's not that only women from a particular age group usually face this issue. Women from almost all age groups face this issue of blackmailing, there's stalking, there is bullying. All of this is a big issue that women across the entire age group have been facing. Now, what can be the steps taken? These are suggestions specifically to address this issue of cybercrime against women. Number one, make it easier for them to report and register the case. Now, it's a very interesting problem. When you go to a police station, you will see police will try extremely hard not to register the case. They will try every possible method to not register a case. Why? The idea is simple. A police station is considered good or bad in the eyes of their seniors depending upon how much crime there exists in their jurisdiction. So, for example, if I am the police station, okay, and you come to me and you want to say that I want to register a complaint. If I register a complaint, I am increasing my own work. Are you understanding? If I register a complaint, then my work starts now. I'll have to investigate the case, talk to people, go here and there and talk to these people. Why would I do all of that? It's so much easier for me just to convince you not to file the case. If I'm able to convince you that filing a case is just a waste of time, my job is done. Because the more the number of complaints filed, the more pressure I will have for my seniors that why is the complaint pending. Because in the police record, once a complaint is filed, then your job starts. Now you cannot remain silent. Now you cannot remain dormant. You have to do something about it. You have to file a charge sheet. You have to take it to the conclusion. And that is why the easiest is just not to file a report. So that has to change. There has to be international cooperation through treaties as well. Why? Because in most of the cases, cyber crimes don't happen within the country. Cyber crimes basically happen across the border. So, in most of the cases, if there is a person trying to hack into a system, a person trying to morph images of women or videos of women, it may not be the person sitting in India. It may be a person sitting somewhere else. And until that government cooperates with you, until that government is ready to punish the person, there is no point of making any law. Increase awareness, obviously, have better policing in the sense, give them more training about all these new forms of challenges coming in now. This is something that has happened in bigger cities at least. Now there are cyber police stations. In bigger cities, there are cyber police stations. For example, there is one in Noida. Noida now has a cyber police station where cyber related cases especially come in. The people who are working in that police station, the police, constable, inspector, etc., all of them have been trained in how to identify these cyber crimes and how to catch these criminals. So there is still a long way to go. We still have a long way to catch up, to give more training, to build better infrastructure, but it is actually at least beginning. Strengthen forensic labs also. To resolve these cases, it is not easy. To resolve all these cases, you have to again be one step ahead of the hackers. And how do you do that? In order to stay one step ahead of the hackers, you have to have better technology as compared to them. You will have a better technology as compared to them only when you invest more money. That means investing more money into giving training to the policemen, investing more money in having your better software, in having your better uh, technology at hand. All of that comes in. Dheeraj is saying Hyderabad police is called Cyberabad police. Is it? No, it's not related to this topic. Dheeraj, Cyberabad is an area where cyber companies are placed. So that police station is called Cyberabad. It's not related to this topic. It's a normal police station. Just at that area, a lot of IT companies. So it's called Cyberabad police station. Not related to this. Then one other thing is, or one other suggestion is to have faster trials. Make sure that if there are people who are involved in such cases, the only way to make sure that they don't go ahead, make sure that they are kind of discouraged from doing this again, is to have much faster trials. As per the National Crime Record Bureau, in 2020, court trials were completed in only 9 cases of cyber blackmailing, and 66.6% was the conviction rate. Now, again, conviction rate is a very good indicator of whether the FIRs were right or wrong. Conviction rate simply means if 100 people were arrested or on 100 people FIR was filed, on how many of them were they proven guilty? That is the conviction rate. So 66.7% conviction rate means 2 out of every 3 people, 2 out of every 3 people against whom the case was registered was proven to be guilty. It was proven that the person had committed the crime. Means the number of instances of this crime is increasing. We cannot have just very few cases solved. We have to increase the number of courts that specifically look into this. We have to increase the number of tribunals also that look into cyber crime, so that we can actually increase this. Give me a moment. Give me a minute, guys. I'll just fill up my water bottle again and we'll continue from here. Don't go anywhere. Just wait for 1 minute. Huh? Yep. So, apart from all these suggestions that were given, what the government should do or what the government can do to improve the situation of crime against women, one thing that the government has done is to establish a body called the CERT-IN, CERT, CERT-IN. Now, Diksha is asking, why do I drink so much water? Diksha, why do you not drink so much water? Try speaking for 3.5 hours continuously and then tell me how much water do you need and how much water do you not need. Anyways, so the one thing that the government has done is created something called CERT-IN. So CERT-IN basically stands for Computer Emergency Response Team India. In simple terms, this is the government's body responsible for fighting against any cyber attacks, cyber threats that the government faces. It was established in Jan 2004. It works under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and it deals with any security threats like hacking and phishing, etc. Also, that was first created earlier, it used to only look into government infrastructure. So government websites, government servers, if those are hacked, then the certain will come into. But now it also looks into private entities. So for example, if let's say there's a cyber attack on a big company that their servers are being hacked, they can also file a complaint to CERT-IN and they will look into it. So now the responsibility is both private and public. Earlier responsibility was mainly with the government. The function is first provide early security warning if they think that there's an attack that may be incoming. They would help by working 24/7 and they would scan the entire cyberspace of the country. So a lot of times in these cases, you can predict, you can detect if this kind of an attack or threat is coming in. You would be able to detect certain patterns, certain websites, certain servers can be identified earlier itself, and that is what certain is responsible for. The government of India tries to give state of the art training to engineers, to hackers or cyber experts who are working in CERT-IN. They're government employees, but they get a lot of training day after day. They get training by collaborating with international institutions as well, and the government takes it extremely seriously. Now, what do they do? These are their functions. In short, collect any information on cyber instances across the country, even if it is an incident that happens in the private sector, collect information about it, who was responsible for it, why did it happen, how can we detect this, how can we try and prevent this in the future. They also have to forecast any future instances if they can. Emergency measures for handling these instances. For example, if now hacker is into your system, now what to do next? Like in case of AIMS, when the AIMS system were hacked, it was a CERT-IN that looked into now what to do, what should be the response. Coordinate with cyber incident related response activities, basically coordinate with any other body that is working in this field, external experts, bringing them in to resolve the cases. And also they issue guidelines of how to prevent any of these attacks from happening in the future. So they give guidelines such as which website to visit, which website not to. I'll give you a very simple example. Usually, when you visit a website, the most important or the most basic security check that you can see before the name of the website, before the domain name, you will see HTTP written. Does it say HTTPS or not? S is for secure. So when you have HTTPS, that means it's a secure website. That's the most basic general security check that you can do. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is the only way it will prevent you or this is preventable or this will prevent you from everything, but this is again a very simple check that you can do, a very simple generic security check that the website that you visit in the prefix has what exactly? HTTP, HTTPS, S is again for secure. So Similarly, they give all the tips what the government should do to prevent all these things. Not just the government, private sector, corporate, what they should do to prevent all of these. Now, also understand this: the corporates, the big corporate houses like Reliance, etc., they spend much, much, much more money than the government on these things. You would not know Reliance, for example, has its own very high-fi security agency. I don't know if you know this or not. So Reliance, for example, has its very own hi-fi security agency. Because see, as you know, uh, Reliance and the people who are in that field would always be under threat. There will always be something that they would have to be careful of. There will always be some attacks on the family members or on the people high or on the people higher up. So what they do is, rather than depending upon the police, they have their own security services. Who are the people in these security services? Usually the people who have worked in the armed forces, people who have worked in the security agencies, people who have worked in intelligence agencies. They are the ones who are hired. They are given a lot of money to keep the family safe and to keep the interests of Reliance safe. Reliance, for example, also offers these services to other corporates. So corporates spend a lot of money on this. Not just this, they also spend a lot of money on their own cyber security. So while CERT-in is present, while the CERT-in gives them a lot of suggestions how to prevent these attacks, they give them guidelines of how to maintain their servers and websites. But the reality is the private sector is more secured in that sense, because the private sector spends a lot more money, takes its security much, much more seriously, and they again bring in experts from all around the world. CERT-in again has also taken steps to implement something called National Information Security Assurance Program. This is mainly a program to bring in awareness amongst corporates. Because, see, when you are a hacker, someone who's trying to hack into the system, for you, for a hacker, there is very little incentive to hack into a personal computer or an individual who is not very rich or who is not very powerful. The purpose of the hackers, if it is to get money or to get information or to get something else, will only be served if they try and target either the government website, the government servers, or people who are very rich, very powerful, can give a lot of money. Common man individual, mostly their machines are easy to hack, but the hackers may not be very interested in that, because they won't really get any return, any reward for this. So awareness is mostly created in the government and in the corporate sector. Also, there are best practices that are shared with them that you have to follow. What is this? ISO, IEC? Any idea? Have you heard of ISO, by the way? You would have heard of this ISO, IEC. At least ISO you would have heard. Okay, so I'll tell you what this is. So basically, ISO is Indian Standards Organization. I hope all of you know this. So ISO is Indian Standards Organization. So as the name suggests, this gives standard markings on a product, that this product is of this standard, that standard. Remember when we buy kitchen utensils, any appliance, etc., it says we are ISO certified, ISO certified this, certified that. So ISO has a lot of certifications for various purposes. The ISO IEC certification is for those websites, those platforms that are implementing the guidelines given by CERT-in or not. So those platforms that are given or that are implementing the guidelines given to them, those platforms that are taking all the steps possible to prevent hacking from happening, they are given this certification. Doesn't make a lot of difference, but when a big business company, for example, is trying to, let's say, give any project to make a website, they will usually see these things. Reliance, for example, will tell their engineers that implement everything so that we get this certification, so that we can be sure that we are safe. Now, India also has a policy specifically related to it. We have a national cyber security policy of 2013. Now, please listen to this carefully. Usually, these policies, the old ones, are not relevant for the examination. The other point is that if you start remembering all the policies of the government of India, there will be no end to it. Usually, for the examination point of view, it is better to maybe remember a recent policy recently introduced by the government, like let's say national education policy. But even then, there have been instances in the past. Yes, Vedashni, that's international. Sorry, ISO. Sorry, that is international standard organization, not Indian. So do correct that. So there have been instances by the UPSC where they have randomly asked certain policies. For example, in 2016, in the GS2 paper in 2016, there was a random question: what are the important provisions of the National Child Policy? Now, National Child Policy in 2016 was not in the news, nothing new had happened, but randomly the UPSC asked that question. So I can't say that don't remember the policy, but again, if you try and remember all the policies of the government, there are hundreds of them, you can't really end them. So try and remember at least some important pointers of this. This policy was introduced in 2013. The aim was simple: to protect any cyber frauds. This is also important because, see, when a government is trying to attract foreign capital, for example, we are trying to ask Tesla to come and manufacture cars in India. We are convincing Apple to come and make iPhones in India. We are convincing SpaceX to come and make their rockets in India. When you are trying to convince these international companies to come to India, you also have to assure them that their infrastructure, that is, internet infrastructure, online infrastructure, is all safeguarded. When they come in, it's not just about their physical infrastructure, physical safety, it's also about their safety online. And this is why it's important for the government to make these policies so that you can bring in more confidence in the minds of these companies and corporate that the government is taking it very, very seriously. Under this policy, the government proposes to set up multiple bodies for various threat levels. If there's a very high threat level, that is very important, critical infrastructure is being harmed, then some other body will look into it. If there's a lower level of threat, then some other body should be formed to look into it. Policy also says to create National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center. This has been done. We'll discuss this in a bit. This has been done. Remember, I discussed a few minutes back that some infrastructure in India are classified as critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure are those that are critical for any country's development advancement. Critical infrastructure is, for example, electricity lines. Critical infrastructure is a stock market, nuclear installations, etc. So the suggestion or the policy said for their protection specifically, a body will be created. This has been done already. Create at least 5 lakh people who are trained in cyber security, make them part of the workforce. Provide fiscal benefit, means financial benefits to businesses that adopt best security practices. So basically, the guidelines that the cert in gives to the corporates, there has to be some incentive for the corporates to adopt those guidelines. Why would a corporate adopt this guideline if there's no incentive to it? So suggestion is there should be an incentive, fiscal benefit. For example, fiscal benefit can be tax break, that we'll take 1% lesser tax from you if you implement all these guidelines. Some kind of a financial incentive has to be given. Then enable the protection of information while in the process. Safeguard the privacy of citizen data. That is extremely important. See, ever since India has entered the era of Aadhaar, ever since we have entered the era of Aadhaar, The problem is that there are a lot of people who still don't believe that the government has the power or has the capability to protect our data. When you enroll for Aadhaar, you give a lot of your personal private information. You give your biometric, you give your fingerprints, you give everything that is personal to you. That data can be misused by many people to impersonate, to create a fake personality. And it is not without any doubt. There are so many news stories that come in after every few months that Aadhaar data is leaked here, Aadhaar data is leaked there. A few months back, there was a story that certain Telegram channels are selling Aadhaar data of the people. So when Aadhaar was introduced, there were multiple cases in the Supreme Court. The Aadhaar as a policy was challenged in the Supreme Court multiple times. It was a policy under which the people believe that the government does not have the means to protect the data. But the government went on ahead with it. But the government has to now rise to the challenge as per the policy and safeguard the private data of the citizens. The government also says under the policy will try to reduce economic losses due to cyber crime. Now, please remember, the government is saying reduce. They are not saying eliminate because the government also realizes it is impossible to stop all the cyber crimes. The government is saying we will try and reduce it, not eliminate, because they also realize that eliminating this may not be possible. Taking it down to zero may not be possible. What they are doing is they are trying to reduce the economic losses as much as possible. The policy also says to prevent, investigate, and prosecute the crimes throughout the appropriate legislative intervention, basically go to the court or the tribunals to solve these crimes, set up testing labs to regulate equipment being used in the country. This is also very, very, very important. How many of you have heard of this company called Huawei? Have you heard of this company called Huawei? If not, then if you would have been slightly older, you would have heard of it. Okay. If you have heard of it, great. If you have not heard of it, so Huawei used to make mobile phones. They used to make mobile phones in India. Now they don't make mobile phones for India. Mostly the routers, switches, these kind of heavy infrastructure is basically made by Huawei. It's a huge company in China, very, very big company. Now, in India, they did not have a lot of presence in personal space, means personally, yes, Vivek. So we used to have these 3D, the dongles, internet dongles, where you put your SIM card, USB, you attach it to the laptop, you use the internet through that. So I used to make that. I had a small phone. In fact, I remember my first ever phone was that Huawei phone, the small one, which had hundred of ringtone, two. So Huawei basically is a big company. So what happens in case of Huawei? It's very interesting case study. So Huawei is again a company that is huge in China, and the founder of Huawei is considered to be very close to the Chinese government, considered to be very close to Xi Jinping. A few years back, America banned Huawei. America banned Huawei. Why? There were allegations that Huawei basically again makes, what do they do? They mainly make the telecom infrastructure. So telecom devices, big routers, data centers, switches, the big companies that use them. That is what Huawei used to make, and they still make it. America banned it because America had a doubt. They said that telecom equipment of Huawei is storing information of American citizens and giving it to Chinese government. Huawei phones are taking up personal information of the users that are American users, American citizens, and sharing it with the Chinese government. That became a big problem. Then similar thing happened in India. So India, a few years back, what happened was in India we were testing the 5G. So government of India was conducting 5G trials. So now they were trying out this new 5G technology. To try out 5G, you could not try it on normal telecom equipments. You had to have telecom equipments made for 5G. And in the entire world at that time, Huawei was the only company that was making these equipments where you can test your 5G. So government of India earlier was using equipment made by Huawei to test our 5G to conduct those trials. Then the allegations started coming in from the US that they steal our data. So Indian government also banned Huawei and said we will not use it for 5G trials. China was angry. So what did we do? We asked Nokia that can you also make it? Nokia said we are also making these equipments. It will take for a few months before we release it in the market, but we will be able to make it. So Indian government said we will not use Huawei equipment for our 5G trials. We eventually used Nokia equipment. It delayed a bit, but we used that because again there were allegations that the equipments being used, that is also dangerous because those equipments, that can be mobile phone, that can be these huge servers, routers, switches, they also store a lot of information, and that information also can be shared with other countries, especially when it comes to Chinese companies. And that is why Huawei has been banned in US, and in India also you don't see many Huawei products. So again, the policy is to regularly check equipments also being used, because it's not just the software, hardware, the equipment that are used, even they can be compromised and they can also steal your information. Then create an ecosystem in the country where public private partnerships thrive, where there is technical support, where the companies can learn from each other, so that if there is any new technology that comes up, government is ready to share it with the private sector. And similarly, the private sector has a new technology, they should be ready to share it with the government as well. Build indigenous security technology. Indigenous means India made or local. Build our own technology so that we are not dependent on any other country. Invest a lot in research. This is what the security policy, cyber security policy of the government of India is. Now, as I said, as a part of this policy, the one thing that the government has already done is to set up this center, National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center. We discussed earlier also, the government has categorized some information infrastructure as critical information infrastructure. The one infrastructure that impacts millions and millions of people, on which entire country's economy stands, that will be critical infrastructure. Electricity lines, nuclear, stock exchange, banking system, payment system, etc. For their protection, specifically, it has been created. Ankush, you are not listening to me, beta. This agency is created to protect critical infrastructure. This is created to protect critical infrastructure. So, what will they do? They will work 24/7 and monitor any attacks on air control, nuclear, or space. Any attack that is coming in, they'll try to stop that 24/7. They will keep an eye on that. They will work under NTRO. Have you heard of this? I think I told you about this a few days back. Remember? National Technical Research Organization. If you attended the class, you would know. We discussed about NTRO. What was NTRO? What did we discuss? What did we discuss? What does it do exactly? What is the responsibility of NTRO? Or who does it work under? Yes, Khushi. Good job. So it works under NSA. It works under the National Security Advisor. We discussed about this. This was formed in the year 2004. That is, the NTRO works on National Security Advisor. The primary objective, gather intelligence as much as possible, and intelligence of different types, from the space, satellite images, cyber intelligence, gather as much information as possible. And they also gather information from areas affected by Naxalism. They report to PM office, PMO. So This center will work under this organization to ensure that any cybersecurity threat is curtailed. Also, in the area of defense and finance specifically, they will be working with experts in that field. The computer emergency response team has also created a specific team for financial sector, because increasingly the threat is on the financial sector. The terrorists around the world or the other companies also know, other nations rather, they know, if you want to bring a country on its knees, the easiest way is to harm their financial infrastructure. Financial infrastructure, for example, can be stock exchange. When you harm stock exchange, the stock exchange drops, the entire country's economy can go bust. Harming, let's say, central bank and its infrastructure, all that is important. So this is again their responsibility to stop the attack from happening there. I'll wait, stop here. I'll give you a few minutes to ask whatever questions that you have. Any question that you have from whatever we discussed so far, please feel free to ask your relevant questions. Vivek, I don't know what digital Knox was, what Samsung Knox is, so no idea. Shweta, yeah, Huawei phones are available online. Huawei is not totally banned in India. Huawei is totally banned in the US. In India, we banned Huawei in 5G trials. That's what I told you now. You can still buy Huawei phones, although I would advise there are better phones available in the market now. Not sure why you will buy Huawei phones, but yes. India never banned it completely. We banned the use of Huawei equipment in the 5G trials. It is America that has banned it. Okay, then Sibam is saying one cyber incident has happened with my female friend. What can be done? Sibam, you have to see if in your district, the French district, is there a cyber police station or not. Now you can also register these complaints at normal police stations also. They will be the one who will refer this complaint to cyber team that will look into it. As I said, in bigger cities, you have cyber police stations specifically. Either you can go to normal police stations also. Aditya saying what is defamation, trolling, and morphing. Aditya, morphing is, as I said, putting someone else's image over someone else's body. That is morphing. Like what happened with Rashmika Mandana, the famous actress. There was a video in which she was not in the video, but her face was imposed over someone else's body. That is called morphing. Defamation means making wrong allegations against someone online. For example, going online and writing stuff that is false to basically hurt your prestige, hurt your reputation, making claims that, oh, you have taken this much money, you are corrupt, you do this, you do that. Trolling means just making nasty comments, trying to hurt you mentally, trying to basically make fun of you, trying to play with your emotions. That is called trolling. So, as I said, if there's no cyber police station in your area, just go to a normal police station to file the complaint, and they will then transfer it to the cyber team that they would have. So, what you can do is you can just go to a normal police station. Gunjan is saying, in my father's name, someone is posting hacked stories by using family members' email. Guys, again, I am not the police, so I can't handle your individual cases. Whatever issue you have, go to the police and with fingers crossed, hopefully they will be able to resolve it. Anyway, let's come back at 7:20. Let's take a break. Be back at 7:20. We'll resume from here. Don't be late. Thank you. Hi guys, I hope all of you are back. All right. There's a few things left here. We'll quickly wrap it up. The next important agency that we have in India is National Cyber Coordination Unit NCCC. Now, if you look at this agency, it has been criticized also, and I'll tell you why. What they do is they keep a surveillance on everything that is happening online in India. So each and everything that is happening online in India, what websites do you see? What websites do people are there some people who are visiting suspicious websites? For example, what Facebook search do you do or what Google search do you do? If, for example, you are someone who keeps on searching something like how to make a bomb or how to kill people, if you search that, then you will see very shortly police will come to you very quickly. How will the police get to know what you're doing on Google search? Because this is what this center is supposed to do. They are supposed to be the e-surveillance agency of the government of India. All the data, all the internet usage across the entire country, they will keep an eye on that. Now, there are a lot of allegations also, there are a lot of criticism of this as well. Criticism is that there is no control over their power, in the sense that there is no regulation that what kind of data will they track, what kind of data will they not track. Right now they can track almost every data that any Indian user has on their internet. What website do you visit? Again, guys, please come out of this assumption that incognito mode is not visible to anyone. Incognito mode is visible to everyone except your parents or maybe your wife or husband. Except them, incognito mode is visible to everyone. So if you're thinking this agency that the government of India has made by spending crores of rupees, if you think they can't see your incognito mode, then I'm sorry, you're mistaken. Your incognito mode does not really protect you from anything like that. So, anyways, whatever you search will be visible here because they go much beyond your incognito mode. So, this again, it has been criticized because the government, many people say, has gone too far by giving it the power to have surveillance over any data. Now, the problem here is there has to be a balance between the national security, that the national security of the country has to be maintained, and a balance between the right to privacy. So are you actually making sure that your right to privacy is served, or are you giving a preference to national security? That has always been the big challenge. Now, whenever India has any cyber threat, monitoring of that thread, any communication with the government, all of that will be monitored by this particular center. So, for example, anyone who visits a government website, anyone who opens a government website, they will track where are you located, from where are you pinging the government website. If they see, for example, if they see that a government website is being opened very frequently by someone sitting in Pakistan or someone sitting in China is opening up our government website every few minutes, that means there is a red flag there and they will report that to CERT in, and then CERT in will see what action has to be taken. They scan all the internet metadata. Now, metadata, don't be confused. Metadata basically means kind of short form of data or kind of some part of data that will help you identify what the real data is. So, for example, if you visit a website, then there will be some address of that website that will be called as the metadata to identify who are you, to identify where have you opened this up from, or what is it that you're using it for. So metadata basically short data, mainly used for identification purposes, for identifying what exactly are you doing, for identifying your online activities. They also coordinate with intelligence agencies around the country. They will be coordinating with the internet service providers as well. ISP means internet service provider. So, for example, Geo, Airtel, Vodafone Idea, all these are ISPs, internet service providers. By the way, those who like using incognito mode, even your internet service provider can see your incognito history. So as I said, incognito history just protects you from your friends and family members, but it does not protect you from anyone else. Internet service providers can also see what is it that you are searching or what website are you visiting from incognito mode. So again, that is also something that they can do. Soma VPN is very different. VPN is not incognito mode. VPN means a situation where you are telling the website that you are opening it from some other location. That is what VPN is. But again, at the highest levels of these technologies like CERT and etc., they are very easily able to identify VPNs etc. as well. But again, it depends on what kind of technology you are using. Now, again, one other thing that has happened at the international level, there are not many treaties internationally that talk about cybercrime. There is only one treaty, one convention where countries have come together to try and discuss this issue of cybercrime. That is called the Budapest Convention of Council of Europe Cybercrime Convention. So Budapest is in Hungary. This is where this convention was signed in 2001. Now, please understand, this is the only convention that exists around the world where the countries have agreed to coordinate with each other on the issue of cybercrime. The issue is simple. Cybercrime is a crime that usually pertains to multiple countries. Most of the people who try to hack into your system may not even be present in your country, they're somewhere outside. So, in order to catch them, it can only happen if you coordinate with the other country's government coordinates with you, if they're happy to help you out. So, to bring all the countries together, to make sure the countries are coordinating with each other, that is why this convention has been created. It came into force in the year 2004. But most importantly, what you have to remember is India is not a party to it. India is not a party. We'll discuss why exactly, but India right now is not a party of the Budapest Convention. We have not accepted this. Now, what does this convention say and what is it trying to do actually? As I told you, globally, this is the only treaty of its kind that talks about threats through internet, cyber crimes, etc., child pornography, hate crimes, violation of network security, all these things. Now, what exactly does it do? It tries to provide rules for investigation of cybercrime, how to make sure that the countries can effectively coordinate with each other and bring about justice in these kind of issues. It kind of tries to set up an Interpol for cybercrime. Interpol kind of a thing for cybercrime. So what happens is, because of the presence of Interpol right now, if you see usual cases, in usual cases, if a criminal from here has run up to some other country, you can coordinate with Interpol. They will at least try and find out the criminal. But it does not really happen in case of cyber crime or cyber warfare. This is what this convention is trying to do. A lot of countries have agreed to it. It has 64 members so far. It has US, it has UK as members, but India is not one of those members. Now, what about India? What have we done about it? India has tried to reason with them. The idea that India has is we are not happy sharing information. What we believe is the problem in this case is, if, for example, we have to, let's say, come in touch, or we have to, let's say, coordinate with some other country on these issues of cybercrime, we will have to share all the information with them about an instance, what happened, what did not happen. We don't feel comfortable with that. That is why India has still not become a part of it. Also, the Home Affairs Ministry has been in talks with them to get some exceptions, but that has not happened. We have realized that our intelligence agencies, for example, Intelligence Bureau or IB as you call it, They are against this because they don't want the data to be shared. They, according to them, according to our agencies, it will compromise on India's national sovereignty if we give our data, if we give this information to the other countries. And that is why we have still maintained this status that no, we don't want to be a part of this. Also, interestingly, around the same time, Russia has also started a convention, or Russia also started an initiative very similar to this. They also talked about how the countries should coordinate, how they should come together to resolve cyber crimes. India voted in favor of that because that does not mandates that the nations have to share their data. But that has not been passed. That is just in talks. The only one that exists right now internationally is the Budapest Convention, and the Budapest Convention is where India is not a member right now. These are some of the suggestions with respect to the Budapest Convention specifically. India again is not a member of it, but it doesn't mean that we are not doing something internally. India has created something called Defense Cyber Agency. We'll discuss about this in the last module, what this is. We have been trying to make cyber capabilities a part of our armed forces as well under this agency. It's not official, but just like China has hackers as a part of the Chinese army, India is also trying to do the same. That is, that our army, our armed forces will also have people with them present 24/7 who are capable enough to either stop attacks from incoming or to, if needed, can be offensive as well. Also, right now, remember this, international guidelines on cyber security coming from something called the Talent Manual. Have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of this name, Talent Manual? Okay. So basically, Talent Manual is a book basically written by NATO. So it's an independent research. So it's a research that it's a work that was released in about 2013. So it's a academic paper basically, or academic research published by the Cambridge University, where experts from NATO, etc., had written about the different guidelines that the countries must follow in order to protect themselves against cyber warfare. It has a second version also that came in the form of a book in 2017. So there is something called Talent 2.0 also. This is the second version in 2017. It came in the form of a book. Again, these kind of short facts can be important for the prelims examination. In the prelims, if they just write Talent Manual is related to what? So you have to remember this is related to cyber warfare. It contains guidelines for the countries. What exactly can you do to be better prepared against cyber warfare? Then there's also concept of air gapping. What is air gapping? Any idea? Have you heard of this air gapping? Okay, I'll tell you what air gap is. So basically, the idea is the problem with our critical infrastructure. Our problem with critical infrastructure is that all of it is connected to the internet. It only becomes dangerous when it is connected to the internet. For example, let's say I have this mobile phone with me. Now, if this mobile phone, if I switch off the mobile phone right now, if I do not have any connection to the internet, if it is just a switched off phone, it will be difficult for anyone to hack into it because it will not have a network connection. Or let's say I have this glass. Now, because it is not connected to any technology, it is just a glass, it will be difficult for someone to hack. Again, I'm not saying impossible. You never know what technology brings in tomorrow, but it will be difficult for it to catch on. That is one of the reasons why you will see a lot of political parties demand in India that we should go back from the EVM. You would have seen this, right? A lot of political parties don't like the EVM machines. They say it can be hacked. we should not have the EVM machine, we should go back to the ballot paper. Their argument is also the same. The argument is that because it's a machine, it can be hacked. Now, the election commission, they say that it is not connected to the internet. This is called air gapping. So, air gapping basically means not connected to public internet. Not connected to public internet. So, as far as possible, there should be a gap between the public internet and these critical infrastructure. I'll give you one more example. For example, let's say our prime minister wants to have an online meeting with Vladimir Putin or Joe Biden. When they have this online meeting, online conference, they have this video call. Do you think he is using Geo or Airtel or Vodafone to connect on Zoom and have this call? Do you think the prime minister would do that? And then he'll get a call from Geo, sir, sir, today we don't have network is down. Do you think he'll do that? Obviously not. So government has their own version. Government has their own dedicated service that is only for government. It is not related to any private organization. It is just the government doing it. This is called NIC net. This is called NIC net. So there is government connectivity through satellites, NIC net, NIC network basically. NIC is National Informatics Center Network. You would have seen when you visit government websites, a lot of government websites have .nic in their domain name. What is that? Government website have .nic in their domain name. What is this NIC? NIC is National Informatics Center. National Informatics Center. So they are the ones who run this internet for the government specifically. So what the government does is government specifically makes sure that the internet or the network that they are using is not something that is common with the global or public internet. That there's a difference between the two. There's a gap between the two. And that is the concept of air gapping, that we should isolate our critical infrastructure. It should not be connected to the public internet as much as possible. It should be away from that. Also, India should push for international court. Again, these are suggestions. India should push for international court for transnational cyber crimes so that these issues can be resolved. Because again, right now, most of the cyber crimes have more than one country involved. The problem is when you have more than one country involved, hacker is sitting in some other country, target is sitting in some other country. When you have more than one country involved, the problem is which country's law will be applicable. There is no clarity over that. Which country would be able to punish the person? There is no clarity over that. So this is where, if we have an international law, if we have an international court that can say that we will have the jurisdiction, it will be better for every country. India can also go ahead with the same. Apart from that, we should also promote international data protection law so that the multinational companies share their data within the country. Remember, yesterday we discussed India's demand of data localization. India for a long time has been demanding data localization, especially from these cyber secure, the social media companies. We have been demanding that their data should be stored in India and give them assurance that their data will not be compromised by the government. We should have National Cyber Registry as a repository of all the IT professionals, meaning the suggestion is there should be a proper record of all the IT professionals in India so that whenever there is a requirement, the government can call in experts even when they are not working for the government. Right now, the government is dependent on the people working in the working in the defense agency, cyber defense agency. But the government does not have an open communication or free communication to call people who are experts from the private sector. So the idea is, why not have a proper let's say, repository, a directory of IT professionals working in this field, so that the government can access this whenever they wish to. Also, cyber security drills should be conducted, just like we have drills for earthquake, fire, to get the people prepared about it, to let them know what action to be taken when there is a crisis. Similarly, cyber security drills should be conducted. These drills should try to train the people what should be the first way forward whenever there is a cyber attack. Also, sensitize people about it. Now, this is very, very, very important. India is a country with humongous number of online users. Number of online users is increasing day by day. With affordability of internet, affordability of mobile phones, affordability of laptop and tab, etc., people across the country, and even the people who you would not call as rich, people who might come in the poor category, even they have their hands on mobile phones. The problem is, when you have a mobile phone which has internet connection to it, that means you are under some threat, or you can be hacked. This is where we have to make sure that it is a part of our common education system. The sad part is, we never talk about these things in our school, even in our college. We never talk about this because it is a generic, general part of our life. It's a risk that anyone can face. For example, very basic suggestions. Very basic suggestions, such as when you are on a Wi Fi which is used by multiple people, you should never open up your banking account on that. Simple. If you are somewhere outside and you are using someone else's Wi-Fi where other people are also on the same Wi-Fi, you should not open up your banking statement or bank account or bank app on that Wi-Fi. Because when you are in the same network as multiple people, when you're a part of the same network, your device is using the same network as others, you become an easy target for the others. It's a very simple thing, but people have not been made aware of this. So the government has to make sure that there is sensitization. People should know about it. There should be at least a generic level, a general level of education, making the people aware that these are the basic things that you should do and these are things that you should not do. For example, increasing number of people are falling to cyber crimes of different types. We discussed this yesterday also. You get this WhatsApp message from an unknown number. They will tell you, give 5-star rating to this Google, to this hotel on the Google Map review, and we will transfer 150 rupees to you. And there's so many people falling for it. You might think, oh, only illiterate people are falling for it. No, there was a news just a few weeks back. A engineer in Infosys had to lose about 1 crore rupees falling for this scam. And I was just thinking, does Infosys really pay this much, 1 crore rupees? But again, there are learned, educated people who are falling for these kind of stuff. It's not only the people who are not from this background. Even the people who are engineers, who claim to be IT experts, IT professionals, they are also falling for this stuff. And this is where the government's responsibility is, to have a very generic drive of awareness, not anything technical, but at least very generic point that this is something that you should do, this is something that you should not do, as simple as possible. Because in a country where increasingly more and more people are getting their hands on internet, getting their hands on phone, etc., anyone can post anything, anyone can believe anything. I have people in the class asking me, sir, I saw a WhatsApp message where there was a road between Pakistan and Bangladesh that Mahatma Gandhi said that I support. Sir, this is true or not? Sir, I read this on WhatsApp. So if people like these believe that these are the messages that are true just because they saw on WhatsApp, there has to be at least bare minimum awareness that has to be raised, because this can convert into cybercrime very, very, very quickly. Now, when I started this module, I told you this is the topic from which a lot of questions have been seen almost every single year. You see one or two questions For example, see, 2013 we had question on social networking sites. 2013 again we had a question on cyber warfare. 2015 again we had a question on cyber warfare, cyberspace. Why does India need a digital armed force like certain? It was asked in 2015 because of the National Cyber Security Policy of 2013. As I said, when the policy is recently released, then it is relevant, then it can be asked for 2 3 years. After that, it becomes lesser relevant. 2016, see, again, there was a question social media by non state actors. Okay, by the way, what are non state actors? This is a phrase that comes in very often. What are non state actors? Who are non state actors exactly? What do you think? Okay, Lakshya, Vivek, Uni, Sapna. Okay. See, non-status in simple terms, those who are not really the government, those who are not government, those who are not representing any government, they can be of different types. You can give them example of, let's say, terrorists. Terrorists are non-state actors. So an organization that does not have a proper territory of its own, that can operate from here, there, anywhere. So even let's say terrorists, hackers, all these can be under the category of non-state actors. For example, let's say if a country faces a terror attack from ISIS, the problem that the country has is ISIS is a non-state actor. So they don't have a country of their own. So if the government has to take revenge from ISIS, where do they go? That is a non-state actor. A non-state actor means having no specific territory of its own, operating from different parts from here and there. And because they don't have a territory of their own and they don't have a government of their own, no one knows how to attack them or where to attack. These are non-state actors. They can be, usually they are referred to bad people, terrorists, criminals, hackers, etc. That is usually what they are referred to. Then again, see, every single year you have questions from this topic. 2017, question again on cyber attack, potential threat. 2017, again a question on mob violence, how social media has caused this problem. Then 2018, again a question on data security. It was a question asked because the BN Sri Krishna committee report had come in. So they had talked about what are the strengths and weaknesses of the report. What did the report say? Then there's something called a Cyber Dome project that was asked in 2010. Any idea? Have you heard of Cyber Dome project? What exactly is this? What exactly is this, a Cyber Dome project? Okay. So those who don't know, it became very famous at that time. It's a project that was launched by the Kerala State Police. So Kerala Police basically launched a project. Again, the reason why we are not teaching or we are not studying this, these are old topics, these will not be asked again. So basically it was first ever time that a state police started this initiative called the Cyber Dome Police. So again, the idea was investing a lot in cyber technology, setting up cyber police stations. There were specific centers set up by the police where they will be given training. Experts will be called from the private sector. That was the Cyber Dome project. Not relevant now. Many states do this. Then again, 2020, there was a question different types of cyber crimes. What can be the measures to handle them? So, again, as you can see, very frequent questions, very frequently these are asked. So it's a topic that comes in time and time again. Now, let's practice a question. I have taken up one of the questions from previous year only. I would want you to again pick a pen and a paper. Try and see if you can write this. If you don't have a pen and a paper, try and pick it up very quickly. Keep it with you. And let's see if you can write an answer. Got it? Okay. So the question is one of those questions that has already been asked by the UPSC. The question is this. It was asked in 2020 by the UPSC in GS3 paper. Discuss the different types of cyber crimes and the measures required to be taken to fight this menace. So it's a two-part question. I told you earlier as well. Almost never will you see a UPSC question where they will ask you only one thing. Almost every single time when you see a question of the UPSC, it will always ask you more than one thing, not just one. So here also they're asking you two things. First, type of cyber crimes, and second, how to fight the menace. So what I want you to do is take a few minutes, write an intro for you, and then in the come to the main body, try and write an answer to this and then match with what I will be telling you. Okay, I'm giving you a few minutes. Write an answer on your own, write the complete answer, and evaluate yourself how similar your answer is to what we will be discussing, the pointers and everything. Try and write it, please. I can't see you, but don't make any excuse. No one is checking how you wrote, how you did not write. So please, please, please do write this. Okay, write this. Even if you can't write the entire thing, write at least a few pointers. And before you start writing, if you have already done that, just do one thing. Write on your copy the amount of minutes that you are taking. Okay, amount. So write the starting time at the time that you start the answer, and then when you end the answer, write that time also. Vivek, up to you. The better practice is always to write, because in the exam you will not be typing. See if you can write it. Lakshan, no, Huawei is not a non-state actor. Again, a non-state actor means someone who does not have a territory of its own. If I ask you where is Hawaii, you know where is Hawaii is. So Hawaii is not a non-state actor. I'm right here only, guys. I hope all of you would have written at least the introduction, if not the main body. At least the introduction part should have been done, right? Okay. You can pause for a moment. Pause for a moment. Let's at least discuss how we are going to write this. Now, if you look at the part where the question is, again, it's not that difficult of a question. See, again, understand there are two types of questions. I'm thinking, I'm thinking as a business idea, I should start an answer writing program for the students because I see students are so scared of writing answers, man. For some reason, you just don't want to write answers. Maybe you don't know where to begin. Maybe you don't know how to start, how not to start. Anyways, so again, if you actually see this, it's not that difficult to start. There are two types of questions. One, there are questions which will ask you very specific things. Okay, there's a question will ask you very specific thing. For example, they'll ask you what exactly is this, simple, and you have to write only that. Then there is a part where you are basically asked whatever you want to write. For example, over here you can write what you want. They are not asking you exactly. For example, what are different types of cyber crime? So you can write from your own point of view. The cyber crimes that you say, like ransom or hacking or all of these things, can be different from somewhere else. So this kind of question is slightly easier because they are not asking you one specific thing that this is what you have to ask or this is what you have to answer. They are giving you a view, they are giving you an open statement where you can decide what are the types of cyber crimes that you can write. This is a usually easier type of question. For example, if you come back here, let's say if question number 6, this one, if this comes in, it's a difficult question because if you don't know what is cyber dome, then you can't do anything. You can just make assumption cyber dome, maybe building a big dome and maybe doing this and that. So that's a specific question. So when specific questions are asked, it's difficult because you either know it or you don't know it. And these questions, when they come in, they become easier. So now again, we had discussed this intro. Best suitable intro is either a definition or a fact, right? This is the easiest and the safest way to go ahead. So what can be definition, what can be a fact? So for example, if let's assume that just a few weeks ago, before when you were preparing, if let's say you have read a report where NCRB, let's say National Crime Record Bureau, you would have read how many cyber crimes are committed in India last year. Let's assume you have this data. Then it will be a great beginning to your answer. So fact can be something like this: government data, government report, anything about NCRB data, anything about number of cyber crimes committed, any report by the government. If you have that fact, great. Please go ahead with that. Begin the answer with that. That will be excellent beginning. It will make a very, very, very good impression on the examiner. But again, this is where don't commit a mistake of making up facts. Don't commit a mistake of just making up a fact that, oh, what will the examiner know? Let me write something. Please don't do that. If you know a fact, only then. Now, the other part of the problem here is you can't remember the exact numbers, obviously. Let's say you would have read the NCRB said there were 79,100 or 98 crimes. Obviously, you can't remember that. So here you can easily say almost 80,000 crimes. That will work, no issues, because you're not lying here. You're not lying. If you say almost 8 lakh, then it becomes a different matter altogether. Then you are lying. Almost 80,000 works, no issues with that. Close to 80,000 works. More than 70,000 crime, that will also work, no issues with that. So if you are in the lump sum figure, ballpark, lump sum, nearby, no issues with that. Use words such as almost, close to, nearby. That will also work, no issues with that. No one expects you that you will know the exact digit. So either start with this fact. Now, the problem is 90% of the times you will not remember a fact. That is the reality. You have to accept that. Because it doesn't matter how many facts you remember right now. in the examination hall, the pressure is so much because it's make or break, that most of the times, even if you have read this, you would not remember it. So let's be honest. If you remember, great, nothing like that. It will give you a very good beginning, but most of the times you will not be able to remember. If you do, great, no issues with that. So when you are not able to remember, we'll play it safe. We will do a simple definition of cyber crimes. We'll play it safe. If we don't know, if we know it, great. If we don't know, we'll play it safe by just giving a definition of cyber crime. So again, both options depends upon, do you have any data with you, do you have any fact with you or not. And as I said earlier, you should be prepared for both these scenarios, because in most of the cases, even if you have read the data, trust me, in the examination hall you will not be able to remember. For example, I'll tell you something. There are a few things that basically repeat in the UPSC exam. There are some topics that keep repeating. I'll give you, for example, I'll tell you some things. Women, farmers, now cybercrime, money laundering, now there is also possibility of election financing or election funds, sometimes suicides. When I say farmer, I mean farmer distress. These are some of those topics that very frequently keep on repeating. They very frequently keep on repeating. And for example, pending cases, they very frequently keep on repeating in one way or the other. Then let's say uh, maternal mortality rate, malnutrition. So there are 10, 12 topics that will keep on repeating in one way or the other in the examination. So what usually happens is, my suggestion always is, before the mains examination, so when the mains examination is about to start, 1 week before that, 10 days before that, basically collect this data. Just collect this data and keep it with you, because again, these are not a lot of topics, 10, 12, or more than that. Collect data and keep it. It will just be one A4 page, not more than that. Collect the updated data, as updated as you can. Trust me, I'm not saying it, all of this will be useful, but even if two of these or three of these are asked, you will be so happy in the examination hall that yes, I remembered something and it has been asked. So it is actually very interesting and important. It brings in one key factor which you can remember. So again, make a list of these 10, 12 topics. Again, this is not the final list. You can add a bit to this, like Priyadarshini saying unemployment. Yes, unemployment also you can write here. So there are 10, 12 topics that are constantly asked in one way or the other. It can be asked in some way or the other. And again, you can make your own list. I am not saying this is the only list you can make, but this is a very good strategy to use usually. Make a list of these data points, not very early before the exam. 1 week before the exam is good enough. Keep it in a piece of paper, remember it, and in fact, take it to the examination hall, read it, then enter the hall, keep the paper outside. Don't get the paper inside, by the way, and you will be safe. So again, this can be helpful going forward. So you can basically try and do that as well. Anyways, so this can be the introduction part. Now we come to the main body. So in the main body, there are two things that are asked. First, different types of cyber crimes. And second thing, the measures that are required. So there are two basic things that are being asked. So we'll start with the first one, different types of cybercrime. Now again, this is not the only list. Feel free to use to write whatever type of cyber crimes that you want. It's an open-ended question, and open-ended questions are easy for this reason only, that you can write in a manner that you want. There are many types of cyber crimes. You can try and do whatever you want. So I've given you some examples here. DDoS, we already discussed. Please understand, when you write the different types of cyber crimes, don't just write one name and then go ahead. At least define it in at least one line. If not two, at least one line define what exactly do you mean by this. So don't just say DDoS and expect the examiner to understand. No. Even if the examiner does understand, he would expect you to at least write in a line what exactly is this. Then there are botnets. Botnets basically are kind of programs that are controlled by the hackers. Remotely, they will control network in your system. They can try and control your system sitting far, far away, click on whatever link that they want. That is what is botnets. Yes, Uni, cyber espionage can also be written here. Ransomware can be written here. A lot of things can be written here. All these are cyber crimes. Identity theft. Identity theft means hacking into someone's account and then chatting as if you are that person, posting content as if you are that person. So that's identity theft. Cyber stalking, we have discussed about how women face this issue of cyber stalking. Phishing attacks, we have seen that. We discussed about that. Again, in all of this, please understand, in all of this, you will obviously give a one line definition. In all of this, if you have any data, please use that. Any data, please use that. If you have data about, for example, how many cyber stalking instances have been reported, any data by NCRB or government or any other resource, any data, please do mention that. It can be the DDoS, it can be the phishing attack. For example, phishing attacks have become very common. Uh, have you heard of this place, Jamtara? Jamtara. I told you, I think earlier as well. Jamtara is a it's a name of the Netflix show as well. I don't know how many of you have seen this. Have you heard of this place at least, Jamtara? So okay, so those who don't know, it's in Jharkhand. It's in Jharkhand. There's a show on Netflix also by the name Jamtara. So Jamtara is a very small city that has become the hub of cyber crimes in India. So there are basically hundreds and thousands of people all the day. They just keep on calling random people and say, sir, there's a free credit card giving to you. Click on this link. You will get a message. Tell me the OTP and you will get the card, etc. So that is what Jamtara is famous for. There are documentaries made on this. There's a Netflix show also made on this, and there's not just Zamta. There are multiple other cities also where all these cyber crimes and cyber stalking, etc., has started to happen. These phishing activities, people just involved in this in large numbers. All of that has become extremely important. Vivek, yes, no, everyone gets calls. Why would I not get the calls? I would also get the calls from these people. Then the next part was about the measures to be taken. Again, the measures to be taken, it is again an open ended answer which you can write. There is no one way to write this. You can talk about what the government has done, the suggestions that we have had, talk about how the government must raise awareness in the people. We discuss about the raise or about the need of raising awareness from the primary education level to level higher up. Then data protection law, that should be very strict to protect the data. For example, how is it that people get your phone number to call you time and time again? How is it that you have never given your number or your email ID to anyone, but then still every single day, I'm sure it is the same with you. I block at least 20 numbers every single day. At least 20 every single day. I get a call, block that number. Then again, I get a call from another number. Then again, I have to block. And even after blocking, I would have blocked at least thousands of numbers and still I keep getting calls. And I'm sure it is the same with you also. It's not that I am different. So the question is, if you did not give your number to anyone to call you for a credit card. How are they getting your number? That means someone is giving them your number. When you go to the grocery shop to buy something, and at the billing counter they ask you for your number, what is it that they're doing with their number? They're obviously selling it. This is not allowed, but that is how the data is being sold. I'll tell you one other thing. You all have heard of Just Dial. You all have heard of Just Dial, right? So Just Dial is that local search engine. If you don't know, it's a company which provides you contact details of people around you. So, for example, if you want to know a plumber around you, if you want to know someone who sells AC around you, just call Just Dial and they will basically send you the numbers of people who are around you doing the some stuff. So I'll tell you, this is few years back. So few years back, for example, I wanted to open up a venture of my own. So I was in Delhi and I wanted to open up the venture of my own, basically my own institute. So what happened was someone from Just Dial got in touch with me, and Just Dial was like, "How will you campaign or how will you basically market?" So Just Dial told me that we will provide you phone numbers of people who are 5 kilometers around this area, who live 5 kilometers radius of this area, and who are in this age group that you want to target. So if you want to target people, let's say from 21 to 30, we'll give you phone number of these people only. And the rate was something like, if I remember correctly, it was like we'll give you 1 lakh phone numbers for 30,000 rupees. So 30 paisa per phone number we will give you. We'll give you 1 lakh numbers, 30,000 rupees only, 30 paisa per phone number. So you can send them message, you can call them, and see, that is how cheap such information is available now. That's how cheap such information is available. So when you wonder how is my number getting there or getting sold, and when you buy even more numbers, it is even cheaper. All that is personal data that you are not supposed to, or no one is supposed to share, no one is supposed to sell. But that is how it happens, and that is again the suggestion: the government should be very strict with the data being sold or data being shared with anyone without anyone's permission. The government should also collaborate with the developed world, because see, the fact is, any new technology, because it requires more investment, will most probably first come up in the developed world. Most probably developed world will get their hands on it first, because they're investing more money. Nothing apart from, it's not that they're brighter than anyone, just that they're investing more money, they're getting more research into it. So collaborate with the other countries. Also make sure that our own infrastructure is built, so that the people who are in the police, in the investigative agencies, they also know how to handle these scenarios. Only and only then we would be able to tackle this. Now again, these measures to tackle cybercrime, it is your own answer. You can write in your own way. This is not the only way where you can write. You can also, for example, start writing that India should be a part of the Budapest Convention. You can write that if you want. You can also write that there should be strict punishment for cybercrime. The punishment should be increased. You can write that also. You can write that it should be a part of our education curriculum. It should be made mandatory. You can write that also. So government can collaborate with, let's say, private companies to raise awareness, or let's say the telecom companies should raise awareness. Anything. There is no one set pattern of writing the problem and writing the solutions. It is absolutely fine. That is how it usually works. Now the concluding part, again the conclusion will be simple: problem, solutions, and then basically write that the government has to implement the solutions in order to make sure that the problem of cybercrime is curtailed. Again, this is how you usually write the answer. Doesn't matter which stage you are in of your preparation, and if you are not confident about writing the entire answer, my suggestion always is at least start writing, and you will yourself see improvement in how you write today as compared to how you write 2 months from now or 4 months from now. The content will improve automatically. The more you read, the more you read current affairs, the more news you read, you will automatically be better. Don't worry about that. Even if you don't have any content right now, you can search online, search for example, let's assume in this answer you want to start with a fact but you don't know a fact. Then don't worry, google it. No issues with that. Google the fact, how many cybercrimes we have in India, see the fact, see the latest data, and then start answer with that. No issues. Whichever part of the answer you are having an issue with, google it right away. You can google the type of cybercrimes, but the only thing I would request you is to at least write in your own language. There's no point of just copying it from somewhere because that will not help anyone. It will just give you fake confidence. So Google it, the data, the content, Google the examples, no issues with that because right now you're in the preparation phase. The more you read, the better your content will automatically become going forward. So Google it, try and write it, get the structure right. At least you should know from reading the question what is required to be written. If you know what is required to be written, you will be able to write it, no issues. You don't have the content right now, search for the content online, absolutely fine. With the time, it will automatically improve. You don't have to worry about that. But do start the practice. The next module will be beginning from Monday, where we will be discussing terror financing and money laundering related issues in detail. How do we curtail money laundering? Money Laundering Prevention Act. What is it that the government does about this? ED. What is it that they are doing? PMLA law, so on and so forth. So for the last 10-12 minutes, I'll take up some of your questions. If you don't have any questions, I'm giving you a earlier weekend beginning, so you can leave if you don't have any questions to start your weekend. If you have any questions, I'm here only. You can ask them. Sakshi saying in other countries, such data selling also happens. We get phone call like that. Your data is available for anyone who wants to pay the price. Doesn't matter they're in India or anywhere else. Krishika, Digital India bill, you can read about that. We'll be discussing the current affairs portion. You can read about that. Doesn't harm. Ankush is saying terror financing, is it different from previous chapter? Ankush, in the previous chapter, we did not go into detail of it. For example, in this chapter, we'll go into detail of FATF, what are the implications of it. PMLA law, we'll be discussing in detail. Prevention of Money Laundering Act. That is so, it's same topic, but in more detail. Shweta, okay, that the updated number would be 67 in that case. Shivam is saying, can AI scam be fraud or AI fraud be the type of cybercrime? No. So AI fraud or AI scam is a generic term. You have to specifically mention what type of cybercrime. So cybercrime can't be just AI and whatever AI. No, nothing like that. You have to specifically mention. Gunjan, see again, you have to start trusting yourself. You are reading the same things that others are reading. So there's no point of thinking that you know less, someone else knows more. That is not usually what happens. You have to trust yourself. Only offensive and defensive capability. Defensive capability means being able to defend yourself when someone attacks. Offensive means being able to start the attack yourself. That is it. So, for example, if China attacks first, you should be able to prevent yourself. That is defensive capability. And you should be able to start the attack yourself as well. That is called offensive capability. Ankush, dear, I read your comment in the first instance only. So you're pasting it the third time. I appreciate your diligence and your hard work, but I don't have any answer to that. All I can say is I like what policeman told you. Vivek is saying data like email ID, mobile number, name get released from CAT exam centers. Vivek, again, I or neither should you put any direct allegations on anyone that they are doing it. It's a generic term. So rather than saying in the exam that data is leaked from the CAT centers, it's better to write that data is generally leaked by companies and organizations. That will be better because when you specifically say CAT centers release the data or they release the data, then you have to support it with the proof as well. Sapna is saying when we install apps in mobile, they want access of photos, contacts, etc. Why they want our data? Sapna, the app will have to tell you why they want your data. Obviously, the more data they have, the better it is for them. They will be able to give ads on the basis of that. They will be able to use your contact list to send messages to others as well. Gunjan, no, we don't have a PSIR webinar today. PSIR webinar is on next Saturday. Lakshya Singh, what is it like to write answer without exact figures, just using increasing high, or lot of people exactly uncertain about the figure? See, Lakshya, you have to understand every student, or no student rather, would be able to remember a lot of exact figures. You might remember some figures here and there, but no one remembers the exact figure to the last data. So everyone is in the same boat. So if you are, for example, writing almost or nearby, it's acceptable, perfectly acceptable. Don't worry about that. Pavitra is saying, only there are so many previous year questions I gave you. You can practice on any of these previous year questions. There's a long list. You can practice on any of these. Pavitra saying, still morphing is going on Prime Minister in Instagram. Pavitra, morphing or photo morphing is a very common thing that goes on with every celebrity, not just the Prime Minister, unfortunately. Priyadarshini Singh, in the previous question, can we write about women related cyber crimes? Priyadarshini, they are not asking you specifically for women related cyber crimes, so I would advise you not to do that. If they specifically ask you for women related cyber crime, then you can write that. You can write, for example, cyber stalking, you can write. So, stalking is a problem with everyone, or trolling, etc. You can write that. Shweta Singh, there is so much data about policies, how to remember all of these. Shweta, don't remember all of these. With any policy, see, I am the teacher, so my responsibility will be to tell you all the points. That doesn't mean that you will remember all the points, right? From any policy, if I'm telling you 15 points, try and remember 6 or 7 of those. That's a decision that you will have to take. The problem is, as a teacher, I can't just leave you with 5 points, because if there are 15 points, my responsibility is to tell you everything. Now you have to take a call, how much can you remember, and then go ahead with that. Uh, Gunjan, if you need external motivation, then you are not at the right place. Anyone who asks me for motivation, I have the same answer. If you need motivation from someone else, then you are not at the right place. Maybe you should not prepare for UPSC. Shivam is saying Play Store, all the apps are secured. Shivam, not true. Google does do a background check of the apps, but it's not compulsory that if it is on the Play Store, it will all be 100% secure. It is more secure, safer, not safest, but safer. Sakshi, there is no punishment for trolling as such right now. Lakshya, we'll try that. Sakshi, trolling, roasting, yes, the same things. Ankush saying, is UPSC based on perfect rectifying only? Not really, Ankush. See, you have to obviously remember a lot of stuff, but you also have to understand what to write and what not to write. Remembering only will work when you know what the question is, and then you can remember. Like in school and college, you knew what question will be, you remember answer perfectly well. In UPSC, you don't know what the question will be, so you'll have to write it from your own mind. So I don't think only remembering stuff will work. Gunjan ji, I am telling you how to write. If you are not listening how to write, and then if you want me to come to your home and pick up the pen yourself and start writing, that will not happen, na? If we are discussing every day how to write an answer, you have to start. If you are assuming that out of the swimming pool you will just do this and you will learn swimming, that is not how it works. Only is saying, is there any punishment for cyber abuse? Only there's nothing called cyber abuse. There are punishments for all the crimes in IT Act of 2000. Shweta saying, before starting the answer, I refer and try to write, but then when I start writing the answer, I forget half of the information. Shweta, absolutely fine. It happens with most of the people. If you forget the information, don't worry. Go back and again see the information and then include in the answer. Don't worry about that. Don't leave the answer incomplete. Whatever you're forgetting, go and check and then write again with that information. That will be absolutely fine. With the time, it will automatically improve. Don't put that much pressure on yourself. All right, then, guys. I think we'll end it here. These were the questions. We'll end it 5 minutes earlier. Enjoy your weekend. We will be back on Monday with your next class. Be on time, 5 p.m. Thank you so much. Enjoy your Sunday. Bye bye. Jai Hind.